Evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the North Brookfield Public School Committee to order. As this is the first meeting following an election cycle, the first item on our agenda is the annual reorganization of the committee. As superintendent, I will preside over this portion of the meeting until a new chair is elected. We will begin with the election of the committee chair. At this time, I would like to open the floor for a nomination for the position of chair of the North Brookfield School Committee.
I nominate John Magario.
Is a second offered?
I second.
The nomination has been seconded by Dan Riendo. Any additional nominations? If there are no further nominations, I will now close the nominations. We have one nomination for chair. We will proceed to a vote. All those in favor of electing John Magario as chair of the North Brookfield School Committee, please say aye.
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 Is it roll call or is it just regular?
We can do a roll call. Tim Canada?
Tim Canada, aye.
Just vote for myself.
John
Aye.
Magario?
John Magario, aye.
Kristen Jean Grande, aye.
Matthew Grant, aye.
Daniel Riando, aye.
It is unanimous. Mr. Magario, you are the chairman of the school committee. I'll turn it back over to you for a nomination of vice chair.
Thank you, everyone. Does anyone have a nomination for vice chair?
Yes, I'll nominate Tim Canada as vice chair.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? No more nominations. We have one nomination, Tim Canada. All in favor of Tim Canada as vice chair? By roll call.
Tim Canada, aye.
John Magario, aye.
Kristen Jean Grande, aye.
Matthew Grant, aye.
Dan Riando, aye.
And for secretary, any nominations for secretary?
I'll nominate Dan. Dan Riando.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations for secretary? There's no more nominations. All in favor of Dan Rondo as secretary?
Tim Canada, aye.
John Magario, aye.
Kristen Jean Grande, aye.
Matthew Grant, aye.
Dan Riando, aye.
We have a committee.
As far as subcommittees, you want to do that next meeting?
Subcommittee, yeah, for subcommittees, there's ongoing negotiations, so that committee will remain as is, which is myself and Tim Canada. And let me know what you're interested in serving on, and we'll make a determination from there.
What are the current subcommittees?
We've got policy,
Policy and negotiations.
policy negotiations.
Curriculum.
I got them written down here.
Building and grounds.
I had, oh, there it is. Yes, policy, curriculum, building and grounds, and negotiation.
Do we know which one? So are we going to look at all of them, or just that, leave the negotiations the same and look at the other ones? That's not knowing who's on what.
I think so, yes.
Okay.
That would be, then once negotiations are complete, we can open that up for alteration if need be.
Okay, sounds good.
So give some thought to those committees and let me know. Moving on, recognition.
All right, I have one this evening. As you may have noticed in your packet, we have a student rep. Our student rep is leaving us after a school year, and we have a new student rep who's joining us for the remainder of this school year into next year. But I want to give a special thank you to Dante Giangrande for his great work this year. Dante has been a strong advocate for everything in North Brookfield, whether it be student council events, athletics, student government. He has been involved, and he does a fantastic job reporting out to all of you what is going on. So Dante? And I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Noah Gillette, who will be taking over the position. He'll be learning from Dante this month, but then I believe next month will be solo, and then all of next year. So welcome, Noah.
Thank you very much, Dante.
For the record, we don't have a Giangrande cap up here. Welcome, Noah.
Moving on to approval of minutes. You all received the minutes from the past meeting. I believe only, it's just be a three-person vote for approval of minutes. Since
Yes, the only comment that I have on the minutes is Kathy Crevier's last name was spelled wrong.
I didn't leave
I think it was a phonetic spelling, which I understand.
Yeah.
So I would just like to, I'll move to approve the minutes, but I would like to amend it so that her last name is spelled correctly.
You can get me her correct spelling.
Yep.
Any other comments? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes as recorded with the amendment to the spelling of the name? Aye.
anything. Aye.
All right. Public participation. Public participation, I believe we have some students who want to say something.
Yeah, that's it. Whoever you, we have hands up, so whoever you want
Hands
to call
up,
on
all right.
first. What's that?
I didn't see the hands up, all right.
Sheila LeBlanc, I'm an accountant. I come again to the school committee meeting to bring to light the financial issues that have gone unaddressed in the past year to two. The information came to me in January of 225 when the new business HR assistant was unable to balance with my records on the school general fund. Each month, town departments are charged with balancing with the town accountant. This is part of the checks and balances of the town. The idea is to make sure there's no errors in either department or on part of the town accountant. I expressed my concerns regarding the need to balance at your meeting of February 24th and was told that it was basically a program glitch and the new business HR manager was receiving training from Infinite Visions. Infinite Visions is a company that made this program. I offered at that time to assist in any way I could. At the school committee meeting of March 24th, I was present at the meeting again to discuss the submitted FY26 budget request. The budget that was received was loaded with clerical errors, no linking of pages, no calculations using Excel formulas. None of this was discovered until I reviewed the submitted report. After speaking about this at the meeting, Mr. Kennedy asked that I include all school committee members in email correspondence. On April 4th, I sent an email to Tim McCormick, Danielle Graham, copy to John Magario, Tim Canada, and Jason Petritis regarding my concern about the school general fund and the school's ability to cover the costs for the remainder of the year. I also noted that although the percentage amount remaining that showed on the report looked okay, it did not take into consideration lump sum payments of about $345,000 and the estimated $425,000 of summer pays that were not accounted for. I also noted that there were grants that were in the negative balance. Most importantly at that time was a negative balance of $39,000 in the targeted assistance grant. To date, I have not received any response to that email. On April 30th, I sent an email to Tim McCormick, Danielle Graham, the full school committee, as well as Brooke Canada and Jason Petritis, both select persons at the time, and Joe Trentacosta, the finance committee chair. In this email, I reiterated my concern with the school's ability to fund the expenses through the remainder of the year. According to my estimates, the school still had payroll obligations of $1.552, never mind any other expenses. The balance in the general fund at that time was $1.513. This would mean that $39,000 of the payroll obligations would need to come from revolve, grant, or gift accounts. This amount did not include the still-to-come expenses of tuitions, transportation, or monthly operating costs. I also noted that any major spending out of circuit breaker, school choice, rural school aid, small rural schools grant, or other revolve or gift accounts could have a major impact on any available offsets for the FY26 budget. To date, I have not received any response to this email. But in the meeting of April 28th, the chairman of the school committee passed over the school committee and financial reports because they are moot. This week, it has been discovered that the school has not exhausted all of their FY24 grants, such as Grant 240, 140, or 305. I'm aware that they have a 27-month spending time frame, but Danielle is now charged with the task of going back through expenditures to find items that are part of the specific grant categories, thus resulting in transfers having to be approved and made by both departments. These grants are designed to supplement the school's budget. At a minimum, there should be a plan to use them monthly, with corresponding drawdowns also be conducted monthly. These FY24 grants must be expended before you use any of the 25 grants. This responsibility falls directly on the superintendent and the school committee. It's my hope that we can work and find a way that maybe if there's any unused FY25 as well as the FY26 grants, to decrease any of the deficit on the net school spending figure in the school budget requests.
Thank you. Any other public participation? State your name and,
Hello, my name is Dane Ford, and I'm valedictorian of the class of 2025 here at MBHS. As someone who has spent the past 4 years of my life in the classrooms of North Brookfield Junior High School, building a love for learning and finding my voice through the opportunities that it's provided for me, I am writing this letter to express my concern and heartbreak over the proposed budget cuts to our high school. Though I know nothing but the financial workings of the school, and I know I will not be here next year, I have a conviction to speak up for the future students of MBHS. These budget cuts will sadly drive away many families from returning here, but that's not what is worrisome to me. I'm thinking about the kids who will remain in the school after these cuts. Those kids who, much like me, found their passions through the amazing programs in this building. They will be given the bare minimum. Our art and music programs are not just electives, they are essential to the identity of our school. I urge you to walk the halls, and quickly you will see the work of incredibly talented students who proudly hone their skills through our art department. Take a trip downstairs during the school day and listen to the music from students who found talents and passions through their music classes. Some of the most talented and passionate students I know discover who they are through these programs. And again, it makes me think of the younger generations. These programs build confidence and foster expression in ways no other classes can. By stripping that away, the only thing that will occur is a demolished identity within the school. Over the past 4 years, I have watched this high school grow and improve, with not only opportunities, but a sense of community built around us. These cuts would wipe away years of development made to make this school something special. I fully understand that words from a high school student who doesn't know the financial factors involved in the making can seem paltry, but I seriously implore you just to take a look at what the school really has to offer through these programs. Consider the lives of students who, without these amazing programs, and staff members who teach said programs, might not have the opportunity to find a passion of their own. I am proud to say that this school has empowered me with the ability to write this letter, and I know I have done so much more for many others. I want the future classes to have that same sense of pride, and I can say that I bleed purple. But that will not happen without these beautiful programs. No child deserves the bare minimum, and yet those who push those cuts completely unravel the fabric of the school. They believe they're doing the right thing, but they're not. Thank you.
thank you.
Anthony Polanco, Aiden Rodriguez, high school seniors and juniors. We have a presentation to give a little slideshow that gives the insight from a student's perspective to the school, not only from those that are just looking at it or talking about it or thinking about it. This is like our reason for why we're here, why we want to keep it open, the budgets, this is our why. It just gives you, it's not the entire thing, but this is us trying to speak up and give you perspective from our eyes and why this is important to us.
Alright, so this is our school. So, as stated before, my name is Tanya Stonehouse and I am a current junior at North Brookfield Junior Senior High School. Now, North Brookfield Junior Senior High School has been dedicated to giving their all to their students, whether it be introducing new and interesting classes or making sure students feel welcome and safe in their school from day one. And North Brookfield has been a family, and we hope to keep it that way. Now, as for our advocates, I'd like to recognize some of our staff that I've witnessed firsthand fighting to make the school a better place. I'd like to recognize our superintendent, Tim McCormick, our principal, John Diorio, our guidance counselor, Courtney Earhart, our incredible math teacher, Megan Hansen, of course, our band teacher, Matthew Bills, John McCormick, John McNeil, and so many other incredible faculty members who make this school a better place and a truly incredible place to learn and be in. And I've seen it firsthand. They give their all to make sure their students have the best education in this state.
So here at NBHS, we are a family. We are all, it's a tight-knit community and a tight-knit school, but that's not always a bad thing. Like, people come together more rather than going against each other, along with most of the town and community members have gone to North Brookfield High School and have graduated, which means most of our parents come from this school, connecting us furthermore. Whether it be hearing stories about the old building or our family members and their school experience making friends for their life. North Brookfield has come so far and has only gone up in community making and friendships and the opportunities that are presented through the school. Because of the small size of the school, the students have many more of these opportunities. Unlike bigger schools, you can't just walk onto any sport, any extracurricular, or even some classes. The National Honor Society and Student Council are some of the ones that best represent our school. The Student Council is the one that runs the events. They are the biggest representatives. Thank you to Caitlin Malone, the advisor, and all of the amazing students that participate, along with the STEM program, the Rocket Club, the music, the arts, and all the other correct activities, the sports. Despite the small community we have and the small student count, these can only grow. They're growing, they're getting better. We're getting more opportunities and more extracurricular clubs every year because of the way that we present them and how any kid is able to do it. Like, we don't discriminate, we don't exclude, anybody is welcome. And that's the cool thing about being a family here, the tight-knit community, everybody's supportive, everybody's included.
And as for the special ed department, North Brookfield takes pride in making students with special needs feel welcome. For example, some students who would have been told that they weren't going to be able to graduate have been able to pass their MCASs and bring themselves to a position to not only graduate, but go to a four-year college. So, like, the fact that we want to cut that, I feel like it's not fair to those with special needs that do well in this school, you know? And for those who don't know me, my name is Aiden Rodriguez. I'd like to end this presentation by telling you a little bit about myself. I'm in my senior year, about to head off to college to study engineering at UMass Dartmouth. Yeah, I wasn't always destined for that outcome. I was constantly in trouble and frequently slacked due to not being caught up in my classes because of how many times I've switched schools. Yet on my return to North Brookfield, I was shown the correct ways. Here I found my family, the people that helped me when times got rough, the ones who showed me how to dig deep when I felt I was lost, when I thought I lost it all, the people that showed me the light at the end of the tunnel, unlike a big school who would have let me fall into the rock bottom, which they did. North Brookfield has built me up, and I greatly appreciate them for that. A home isn't always a house we live in, it's also the people we choose to surround ourselves with.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any other public participation? Yes.
Hi, thank you. My name is Heather McPherson. I'm a resident of Whitesville, and I made a return to teaching here in North Brookfield just this year. My son has school choice to this district since kindergarten, starting with Mrs. Buzzle next door, and he is currently a junior here at the school. It has been my absolute honor to be back in this building, working with such fantastic colleagues, but even more so, having the tremendous experiences of being with the students in this community. It would be absolutely devastating for our students to be shut out of this building and tuitioned out to Quabog. Quabog didn't want to regionalize with this town, and now they just want the money per pupil. That's what it comes down to. In terms of what kind of harm comes to school closures, that level of harm, or this potential level of harm, according to Education Week, can last a lifetime. Okay, some of the data that has come out in recent years, and this is from June 2024, students who attend a school that closes during their K through 12 career have the lower test scores, along with worse attendance and behavior in the short term. In the long term, they're less likely than their peers to complete college and have a job, and their earnings tend to be lower. By age 26, the students who experienced school closures were 4.8% likely to have attended college, 4.7% less likely to have completed college, and 1.3% less likely to be employed than their peers in schools with similar demographics and in similarly sized cities who did not experience a school closure. Annual earnings for those students from ages 25 to 27 were also 3.4% lower than their peers. Finally, on a more personal note, I got this email from a student today. Good afternoon, Mrs. McPherson. I know you possibly may not be working for the school any longer, but I am far from finished being taught by you and will make any exceptions I have to. So I am asking if you could continue to mentor me in creative writing. I may have the talent, but it's only raw and needs to be refined and polished, and I would be really happy if you could help me polish myself as a writer, even if it isn't in school. I really hope you take it into consideration to continue mentoring me and help guide my pen, even if it isn't in school. Thank you so much for your time and expertise, and just in general being a wonderful person to talk to, and being the person I can talk to about my books who understands what I'm talking about. There's nothing minor about this. And it's not just about me. I worked in this district nearly 10 years ago for about 5 years before I left for graduate school, and I cut my teeth teaching here. I completely believe in this school district. I believe in the students in this building. We have had students gone on to receive their PhDs, work for companies like Lockheed and Martin, and they have even an entrepreneurial spirits. It would be a shame to let any of that go and to disadvantage the current student body that continues to thrive in this building. And believe me when I say, I would not be the teacher I am now if I had not gotten my start in the classroom here. And I grew up in a town just like this one, even smaller in fact, like a town of 600, and I went to a regional district. And it was not a good fit for me. A regionalization, which is off the table, but having to abruptly move students, including our special education students, they are not going to receive the benefits that they currently receive here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any
If
other?
I may, please, sir.
Sure.
Tanya Stonehouse, resident, taxpayer, and parent of a North Brookfield High School rising junior. I speak to you as someone who every day manages contracts for a larger state entity and is very much aware of the balancing a spreadsheet. But I'm also very much aware of the intangibles. I've been watching the Facebook chatter, the vitriol that's been spent, time and energy for people that could very well be looking into solutions. I have a son asking me to people in town not like me because I'm a student here, because we choose to stay here. I watch my son every day be motivated, encouraged, and celebrated. He's over 4.5 GPA, looking at going into rocketry school post here, engineering. I watch him celebrated and coming home showing me excited, 17 years old and excited about school, because he launched a rocket, learned about math, arguing with his teacher about mathematics. Raise your hand, people over in the cheap seats, if you've been around a child at 17 who comes home excited to discuss the arguments he's had with his student. And again, healthy, wonderful, spirited conversations. I've seen people say the teachers here somehow are not good. I've watched them encourage my son. I've watched them stay long after school. I've watched them stay long after every day. They're long days, mind you, and I know they start early and they end late. Motivating, encouraging, supporting our student body here. Believe me, I get balancing a spreadsheet every day. I try to figure out, am I paying the electric bill this month, or I'm paying the cable bill, or I'm just cutting the cord. I'm looking at school bills right now, where I might send my child. But one thing I will tell you, if we give this school away, we will give our control away. I did watch last week, unfortunately my work schedule, because it is a busy work schedule, doesn't always allow me to be at these meetings like this. What I will tell you is if we give away the school committee and our control over even the small modest school here, we won't get it back. And who's to say they're gonna pull the carpet out from under us and say, hey, in 10 years, I'm planning to live in North Brookfield until the end of my days. Maybe go to Florida and chase my son, hopefully be working for NASA. But I'm gonna tell you, we don't know what's gonna happen in a few years. We will lose all control. Yeah, we'll have a seat, but we won't be voting membership. The only answer really, in my humble opinion, is regionalization. That was explored. Maybe there's other schools to talk to about that, other school districts that maybe will entertain it. And then will give us proper voting rights. But as a taxpayer, I have to look not just short term, but long term. And say, is it going to benefit this town to send our children elsewhere? Where again, they're gonna be gypsies. There'll be no town and no identity, no connection. I've watched these kids grow up together. I've coached many of them. I've coached many of these students. And I'll tell you right now, they're top notch. Many of them are here dreaming their future. And right now, I'm looking at where, is my son gonna be going to school in town next year? After he said to me a long time ago, Mommy, I wanna stay in North Brookfield because that's my home, that's where my family is, and that's where my friends are. And I get fiscal responsibility, and believe me, I'll be the first to tell you we gotta look at make some really hard decisions. But what I'm gonna tell you is we don't do on the backs of people who are committed, who are not just encouraging, but encouraged. And every day watching the traffic on Facebook, and I've taken breaks from that because I say to myself, this is my son, people that I know that teach him every day, that are very committed to our student body here. And I watch these wonderful professionals here trying again, trying to manage things and create programs that, again, no one else has. Have you seen the band? Raise your hand if you've seen the band here. My son is a pipe organist for his local church in East Brookfield, mind you, but it's local. Okay, he plays for the worship band. Sorry, I'm talking too much about my kid. But what I've seen is this being encouraged and celebrated. He's playing trombone. The dog disagrees, but I think it's fantastic for the first time ever. He couldn't do this anywhere else. And again, I always say, I don't want to go back on Whitney Houston on you, but I believe the children are our future, people. And if we're not going to celebrate that, then at least, and look towards the future of the school here, I just ask you to please think about the long term and not just the short term. And I know this has been thrown around. A lot of students left here because they were thinking about long term and regionalization. I know that. I was here. Okay? But the reality is we have to think about making this make sense. And if we're worried about the taxpayer burden, what I will tell you is we will lose all control of that in the future if we tuition out. Okay? So again, appreciate your time this evening. I want to give a heartfelt thanks to our teachers who are here tonight and to our students, because I'll tell you right now, you are second to none. I spent a week with you all in Washington DC a couple weeks ago, and I will tell you, I'm still recovering. It was a fantastic experience because you are all tremendous human beings. And you don't find that. We walked through Arlington Cemetery, and there were kids like they were storming the cemetery. Our children were refined, they were respectful. In every encounter we had on that street, our students, they lined up, allowed others to pass. No one else did that. And that's not something that happens because of, I love to say good parenting because I'm one of them. But I'll tell you right now, it's because our teachers took the time and energy to help them prepare and know how to behave properly in these settings. And I will tell you right now, I wish we had video of this because I would love to celebrate how well our students appreciated and took that opportunity and were great ambassadors of our small town and our very small but very mighty school system. So again, I'm done. Sorry.
Wow. Thank you. Anybody else, real quick?
Olivia Brande. I graduated from North Brookfield last year. I just wanted to share a little bit of my experience in North Brookfield. I didn't start in North Brookfield. I came to North Brookfield in 6th grade. Believe me, in the beginning, it was not something I wanted. I was happy where I was. I was in Spencer. I was in middle school, and the thought of going from middle school to elementary school was not something that I was interested in. But I got here and I made friends and met the teachers and thought that, and realized that this school was something that I could have never imagined. It was something way better. It was, it made school exciting, and I was excited to go to school every day, and I was happy when I came home. I got so many opportunities here that I would have never had I stayed in Spencer. And student council and getting to play on a sports team for a couple years. And then leading into, I had my first science class with Malone, and it completely changed what I thought I wanted for my future. I never thought I would end up in college, and now here I am. I just finished my freshman year of college. And within my first semester, I had teachers who sought me out to do research that is usually left for juniors and seniors. And I'm continuing that research next year with a new professor who picked me to and asked me to do research with her because of a question I asked. And I would not be in that position had it not have been for the amazing teachers and staff in this building. If it had not been for them, I would not be where I am today. I would not have just finished freshman year of college. I would have graduated and probably gone on to do something different, done a normal day-to-day job that didn't require a college degree, didn't require, and wasn't a passion for me. But I found what I love, and that is because of the teachers in this building. And I would hate to see other students go on and not find what they love because they didn't have the same experience I did. Because they didn't get to graduate from North Brookfield. Thank you.
Thank you. We had one over here real quick.
Yeah, I will keep it quick. Damen Serret, high school English teacher and union president. I won't bother making any impassioned pleas to save the school and save us, only because I think that our students, my colleagues, parents of the student, and alum have done a fantastic job. I think I'm very moved by tonight, and I appreciate everyone who's spoken. I appreciate what you said. I'm really here just to say a couple things, kind of piggyback what's already been brought up. Obviously, the tri-board meeting that was unable to attend, but obviously was must-watch TV, I guess, in a perverse way. Comments and things that were said and made there, egregious, okay? I'm just hoping that this committee, because we've been able to work in good faith, negotiate in good faith, that this committee at the table does not kowtow to others in the town that seem to be louder, be the loud voice in the room. And I agree, the vitriol on social media, those of you who know me, I don't do it because that's all you find there, are people behind a screen that will launch remarks and such without any threat of repercussion, it's just cowardice, and a lot of it's ignorance, and I've had it. So, I just want to remind people, if the naysayers in the town are looking to just scoop tuition everybody out, a couple things. There's no info on the arrangement that we're talking about, as far as, there's only one precedent that we can find in Western Mass where this happened, and it doesn't fit the way it's being talked about in town. I would just say buyer beware, which has already been said by a few in this room. There's no chance for public comment. Like Mrs. Stonehouse says, you lose all control. You will not get it back. That's always been a mainstay in this town. I'm on my second generation. I appreciate the fact that Mr. Ford's eloquent speech today, because I remember teaching his parents. And boy, mom and dad are proud. And dad could not do what son did today. He could not do that. Next year's seniors and all the students here, you tuition out, they will not have any trusted adults where they go, okay? Keep that in mind. Totally unfair for all our kids, but especially next year's incoming seniors. That would be a travesty to end their high school that way. And to make that decision and be told in less than 1 month notice, cruel. No other word for it. We keep hearing there's more opportunities at Quabog. But what happens if there are 24 seats for nursing, but 10 kids from each town? Who won't get a seat? I don't know, but my bet would be on the people that don't have any say, that aren't allowed at the table, okay? Another thing, if the town and SC really think that they will save money with closing the school, they should ask to reopen regionalization talks with the new math of a closed NB figured in. That's something that nobody talks about. Every time I see a meeting on TV or watching on YouTube, there are people that throw a lot of numbers around. And most of the people that are throwing numbers around, I'd like to know where the hell they got the numbers. They seem to pull them out of just thin air with no justification, explanation, rationale, nothing. Okay? I was part of that regionalization process. I would attend the meetings, the few that would happen on occasion. And let me tell you something, there's a much bigger process to it. And nobody ever looked into the finances of actually regionalizing but closing down this portion. That's the part that they wanted to keep this building open, bus kids back and forth. That was a huge cost, people. So once again, I'm not here changing my tune. I too, like Dayton said, bleed purple. This is my home away from home. I have been here through thick, thin, and everything else. There's been many times where I've had to come at meetings and face awful things, losing colleagues, losing students, like the mass exodus we had that was referenced earlier, all because, once again, numbers that were thrown out, about $1 million deficit that wasn't even true. Everybody jumped ship, we're still paying for that today. So, another thing I would ask, tuition, or just another comment, tuition is not a gateway to regionalization, the way it's been presented at the tri-board meeting. It is not a gateway. Why have us a part of the conversation when they don't need us if we are paying? That's really what it amounts to. Mrs. Stonehouse said it best already. That's what it is. They're looking at the kids, our kids, as dollars and cents. And then finally, the last thing I would leave you with, what happens after 3 years? Do rates go sky high? Do you shop your kids around again? You have no control, people. I find it interesting, especially after we had a former school committee member. Main agenda was to come in here and come back and bring back the Indians as a mascot, to now a building and a school that may not even be in existence. I don't understand what's going on here. People talking out of both sides of their mouth. And like I said, I think unfortunately, a lot of the loudest people, the loudest voices are the ones behind those computer screens on social media, and the ones that aren't willing to do the real work, look at numbers. And remember, when we're looking at numbers, one thing to keep in mind, we're a people business. We're a kid's business. I never look at any kid as dollars and cents. That's just pathetic. Thank you.
Thank you. Gonna call comments closed because it's run on a little longer than usual. Just for future reference, public comments is about 20 minutes, give or take. And I know I let people speak longer. It's usually 2 minutes for policy, but felt it was necessary to let people be heard. And that's the chair's prerogative. Moving on to communications. Don't leave. Let's see. I believe there's anything under communications. Student representative report.
Past information. Executive Board elections. We held our Executive Board elections on Monday, May 5th, where we elected our new board for the 2025 to 26 school year. Our new board consists of President Sophia Giangrande, Vice President Whitney Reno, Secretary Milkalia Alia, Treasurer Sarah Mosen, Historian Dante Giangrande, Spirit Coordinator / Public Relations Abby Lindberg, and myself, the student representative. Teacher Appreciation Week. Our annual Teacher Appreciation Week was held from Monday, May 5th to May 9th. Each day we gave out gifts for teachers. Then at the end of the week we held our Teacher Appreciation Breakfast for all staff. Upcoming information. Junior Conference / Shadow Days. On Tuesday, June 3rd, we will be holding our Junior Conference event. This will be for the 5th graders to give them an opportunity to learn about our school and student council. Along with Junior Conference, we will be working with admin to schedule and organize Shadow Days. Class Day / Field Day. Class Day Field Day will be held on Friday, May 30th. Our students will start the day in classes and transition to the elementary school for Class Day ceremony, then head into Field Day. Class elections. Class elections will be held on the week of May 27th for uprising 7th to 12th graders, and rising 6th graders will have their elections in the fall. Lock-in. Lock-in is going to be held on Friday, June 6th into Saturday, June 7th. This event is for student council members only. We stay over at the school and get locked inside overnight. We participate in workshops and run team building activities throughout the night. Then we have free time. Last day of school. On the last day of school, the Hanson family and student council work together to make milkshakes or non-dairy slushes for all students as an end of the year send-off. Social media. We invite all community members to follow us on social media accounts to keep up with all NBHS student activities and events. Our accounts are Instagram at NBStuco, Facebook at NBStuco, TikTok at NB_Stuco. Student council meetings. All meetings are open to the school and community. Meetings are typically every other Monday in the high school Kiva, starting at 6 p.m. running till 7:30 p.m. Please feel free to join us if you have anything you would like to discuss or would just like to see how things are run. Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. Any questions or comments? Sorry, Dante and Noah.
I think, shout out to the Hanson family, because these milkshakes at the end of the year are like stuff of legend in this school. It's, every year we hear a report about these milkshakes coming up, and then the report after the milkshakes, it's like, it's a countdown on right now for Milkshake Day. But thank you to the Hansons for doing that. And for the non-dairy slushies for those that can't enjoy the milkshakes.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Let's see. No school committee reports to be had, financial reports.
I have some transfers to, which have been signed off and shared with the committee. The first is in the amount of $7,792, transferring money from the general fund to grant 140. 140 pays for staff professional development and school PD. The second transfer is payrolls to be applied to grant 40, to grant 240 from the general fund in the amount of $5,003.62. This is for para and ABA support staff salaries. And the third transfer is from the general fund to grant 262 in the amount of $4,620.
Any questions or comments on those transfers? Thank you. Moving on to Superintendent's Report.
So my report is in multiple parts, as it typically is. I listed all the new hires and the departures for the district. I also have some updates for so far in May. On May 15th, I personally attended the final session of my new superintendent's induction program, which was a 3-year program put on by DESE for new superintendents in the Commonwealth. Over the past 3 years, I've worked with a coach, where we've helped develop some of the planning that has gone on within North Brookfield Public Schools. So this last meeting was kind of a send-off and also next steps as far as what we can do to work with this group of colleagues to ensure that we each stay in touch, but also work together to make sure that we're doing the best for our home districts. Second, in early May, I'm going to mention this in a little more depth. We received notification from the state that we in fact did receive our Innovative Career Pathway designation in advanced manufacturing. I'll get to that in a second. But also on May 13th, Mr. Diorio, Ms. Malone, and myself attended the 1/8 Celebration of Learning event in Norwood. As you may recall, in April, we traveled to Denver to see 4 schools where we saw applied learning in person. This is a concept that we have quickly adopted with our work with UDL and making sure that our instruction is really student-centered, student-focused, and student-driven. So we've seen some great work around applied learning in Ms. Malone's classroom, Mr. McNeil's classroom, and we've seen it spreading throughout our school and our district as we do that work as a team. So we're very pleased with that work. I know that Mr. Durio had some follow-up meetings today to talk about kind of next steps for next year as well. So we're excited about this partnership with the 1/8 Foundation, but also our partnership with Project Lead the Way. I do want to show a very quick presentation. When I say quick, it's about 5 slides, but give you an update on where we're at with our advanced manufacturing. I did send an email this afternoon to families at the high school and to students. But this essentially, as I've been talking about this throughout the school year, this has been a long process that North Brookfield has been part of, and we've had multiple people involved, including Mr. Durio, our teaching staff in STEM, in the arts. But this is a process that's taken on a couple of years to kind of really build this up for our students. And what we're trying to do is offer our students a pathway to career and college readiness in advanced manufacturing starting next year. This is starting for our incoming freshmen for next year. And what this looks like is we will tailor our classes in STEM technology that every freshman will take a STEM class. They'll take a life science, they'll take a STEM class. And if they enjoy this pathway, they can stay in this pathway through their senior year in high school. What this allows them to do is they can have access to dual enrollment courses through QCC. They can also have credentialing, they can earn credentialing along the way so that they can look for a job in the advanced manufacturing sector while they're in high school or after graduation. And it also gives them a leg up for engineering or manufacturing degree in college. So the program is really designed to support kids as they go to college, but for those kids who can't go to college or don't want to go to college, this gives them those tools to be successful post-high school, and we're very excited about that. But like I said, it's advanced coursework, it's technical skill development, I'm going to get to some of the skills in a minute, and it's also 100+ hours of career immersion. What that means is their senior year, they can do an internship or a work-based learning program with, for example, FlexCon. We recently have had conversations with Vibram. We're trying to get that relationship back up in order. We're looking to place kids in these high-tech, high-advanced manufacturing opportunities so they can earn those livable wage skills that they deserve and they need to progress and to be successful after high school. As I said, it's a 4-year pathway. This is the kind of the layout of the classes that they will be offered. In year 1, it's an intro to engineering design class. It's called IED. These are all through Project Lead the Way. Project Lead the Way is a nationally, if not worldwide, renowned curriculum that has been adopted by hundreds of schools, not only in this state, but across the country. And they will be offering the curriculum that our teachers will access to support our students along this pathway. Year 2 is Principles in Engineering. Year 3 is Computer Integrated Manufacturing. And Year 4, like I mentioned, is that capstone project, where they will do a project either here at the school or they'll be sent out to a work-based learning site in the close vicinity. Along the way, students will work with our school counselor, and they will be using what's called the MyCap program. This is a DESE-supported planning tool for college and career readiness, and this is something that Ms. Earhart has been receiving training for all year. That's part of the grant designation. We had to do that to make sure that we received the grant. But again, very excited about this opportunity. This opportunity would not be possible without the grant funding from 1/8 from Project Lead the Way, excuse me. And a year and a half's time, we've received well over $100,000 to get this program up and running. And what that means is we can supply our students with the durables, the consumables, and our teachers with the support they need to make sure they can go through all 4 of these classes. So again, why choose this pathway? We've talked about this a lot, and we're going to be talking about this throughout the end of the year, over the summer, and then the start of the school year with our incoming freshmen. But exploring careers in engineering, robotics, and manufacturing. That's not just, we don't want it to be just something you do once in school and then we forget about it. We've heard kids tonight and previous meetings talk about some of the cool stuff. We talked about our STEAM night. We've seen some of the rocketry that's going on in our school. We've seen what Mr. McNeil's doing in his classes. We have an AI-generated robot that he's building in his classroom. I saw 2 students last week coding, learning how to code, which is a skill that is used by thousands, but it's very new to our district, and it's very exciting to watch our students be able to navigate that as they're building programs for these robots. Like I said, gain real-world experience and credentialing before graduating. Build a strong resume and with internships and certifications, and open doors to high-demand jobs and post-secondary programs. The ICP designation, as set forth by DESE, wants to push kids to go to college. But the backfall, if they can't go to college, they don't want to go to college, they will receive those skills and credentialing they need to be successful in a post-high school workplace. We put together this infographic earlier this year to kind of show the progression, and this was sent out today so you could see this. This gives the 4 classes a little more detail. We're short on time tonight, but I want to kind of show you what those 4 classes look like. But at the bottom, you can also see what some of the credentialing looks like between OSHA 10, MacWix, SolidWorks, Autodesk Inventor, Fusion, Onshape, Vex Robotics. So students can receive that credentialing as they progress through those 4 years of school. And those credentials are credentials that will help them with both a college application and a career resume. So again, very excited to build those opportunities for our kids. This is just a letter that we received from Secretary Tutwiler. It was actually received in early May. It was dated April 1st, but this is a 5-year pledge. The first year of this designation, the school will receive a $75,000 grant, and then the next 4 subsequent years, we are allowed to apply for $50,000 per year to support this programming. We can use this funds, like I said, for equipment, for training, for supplies for our students, but also to offset some of the salaries that we need to put those teachers in place to support our students. So very quick presentation, but I want to kind of give you a sense of kind of completion with that grant process, and we're excited to start this next year with our freshmen.
Any questions or comments for Mr. McCormick on this program? I'd just like to say I was on a tour of the school with Mr. McCormick and Mr. Gilman from the select board, and it was pretty cool seeing what kids are working on. With the robotics, they had a speech-to-text AI interface they're working on. It's pretty cool. Programming in Python, and if you know anything about programming, Python is very versatile, and if you have Python skills, you have a job. I'll just say that. So the opportunities here are pretty incredible.
I will say this has been being built for quite a while now.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember a few years ago on our tour, it was a big deal because we finally had a dedicated computer lab room. And to see where we're getting to, where there's actually a practical application for this and this career pathways, it's nice to see that work from years ago starting to pay off and really show its merit in the school.
And having certifications in those CAD programs, again, that's almost a shoe-in for a beginning career in those fields, and that has wide application across all kinds of manufacturing and design. So it's a really great opportunity for students here. All right.
I think we'll go to, if you don't mind, if we just flip the order, we have our DC trip recap.
Yes. Ms. Hanson?
Before they explain the slides that we have for you to see, I just want to, you guys want to just come over here. I just want to tell you, this is our third trip that we've gone on. Before that first trip, it was 27 years before when North Brookfield had gone to DC, and we really felt it was important to revive that so that our kids here could go. Now, other schools go as an 8th grade trip, but being so small, our first 2 years, we had it 7 through 9, and that gave us the numbers to actually be able to afford to go. And for some reason, I don't know whose idea it was, we decided this past year, we asked if we could open it up to 7 through 12, and so that our 7 through 9 students would be the student travelers. And if you were in 10 through 12 and wanted to go, you could be a teacher's assistant, and you would be assigned a chaperone, and you would help with the other kids. So that gave additional students an opportunity to go. About fundraising. It took us, I don't know how many bake sales, car washes, many Italian nights, cornhole tournaments, nights at the clam box. Who knows was really big and good to us this past year. We had donations from businesses, individuals, foundations. We even had a student sponsored by a Marine Corps organization in Western Mass, which was very touching to me. I thought it was wonderful. So I just want to say thank you to the teachers, the families, the friends. You believed we could raise the money for these kids to go, and we did. And it was almost $40,000 in 2 years, so that all of the students who wanted to go but couldn't afford to were able to. Another thing that is very noteworthy was we had a trip leader, so with the company, her name was Kim. I did not get to meet her, but she sent remarks about the students, and she said normally she doesn't expect, well, yes, Megan, could you just read what she actually said? Because I wasn't even impressed. Could you just read
I know what she's going to say and think, so I already had the email pulled up. We received this email while we were still on the ride home, so when my mother couldn't be the person on the trip, I took over. I'm Meg Hansen, high school math teacher, 2009 graduate of MBHS. And I read this to our kids on the bus. I have to remind myself that I won't connect with every group really well, and that's okay. Just need to do my best and be professional. But this group was wonderful. I really wish I had a longer trip with them because they were so great.
So that was from the person the company assigned to us, Kim. And we worked really hard, like Mrs. Stonehouse said, to make sure that our students understand what your behavior should be like when you go somewhere like Arlington Cemetery and all of those important places in DC that you don't want them to like run amok. So there were times when they could have fun and they had a swim night and all these other things.
But when it came time to behave and be respectful and to understand where they were and what they were seeing, I'm very proud of everything that I heard about the trip and grateful to our chaperones. And I think we have outstanding students and they did an awesome job. So I know that we just have 8 slides and the kids who are in the slides just will tell you briefly about them. So thank you. Brenda's gonna start off.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brande. I was asked for the slideshow to put forth my 2 favorite pictures from the trip. Both of these are my group that I was with on the trip. The one on the left is us in front of the White House, and the one on the right is us in front of the To the Unknown Soldier. I chose both these pictures not only because they were my favorite from the trip, but also because I feel like they captured what the trip was like the best. In each picture we have all of us, and on the left we also have our chaperone, the amazing Mr. Mike. And we were very tight-knit as a group. On the day of the White House, that was an amazing experience. There were definitely my favorite day by far. Just the experience of getting to be that close to the White House and experiencing what something like that can be like. And the day of Arlington was also a very important day because it was still fun, but it also gave a different perspective of the trip and what else the things down there can be like. Watching the changing the guard was something that was an amazing experience and that I hope to be able to do again. I also would like to note the posting up like Polanco, quote unquote, in the second picture. That was our ongoing, you may see that in other pictures. Every picture. Every picture, posting up like Polanco. All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Miles Abreu. I'm one of the students who went on the trip. I was very excited to go on this trip for years, and I'm so glad I went. It was the best, it was like some of the best days of my life. Sorry, on the left is the White House with me and my dad. He has I got a hat, like an Abe Lincoln hat. He also did too, but it says like Honest Abe something. And then on the right, that's us with the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And yeah, really fun trip. I wish I could go again and go longer.
My name is Hope McCoy.
And I'm Julia Trufo.
And we've been waiting to go on this trip for this whole year. I found out about it last year, and to think that I would actually be able to go was one of the best things I could do. As you can see, the one on the left is of me, Julia, and one of our friends. And I think the thing that made it the best was probably that we were doing it all together and that we all just kind of just went into the photo. I'm pretty sure that was of the Jefferson Monument. There's too many monuments. The photo on the right was one of the photos I took of the Ferris wheel that we went on. And I'm gonna say one thing. I was freaking out after I went on. I only went on to go for one of my TA that was with my group, which was Sophie. Because the people that are really close to me should know that I'm very scared of heights. So I was freaking out. But in the end, we got ice cream, so.
Hope it's okay, I was freaking out too.
Another reason I also like taking these pictures because the one on the right, well, the left, I think, of me, Lily, and Hope, was one of the best because we all got to like bond as like a group and like got to be with our friends, and we all took that picture to like have like a memory of all being there together. And like that was just one of the best, like just us all like bonding as friends together. And then the other one of the Ferris wheel, I like that one too because that was also my first time going on a Ferris wheel, and I was scared. And I did it, and I did not freak out, but I liked it.
And before we usually end what we're talking about, the photo of me, Julie, and Lily, we have been close since I came here in 5th grade. And on this trip, we didn't bond as close as we did on the trip. Sure, me and Julia weren't in the same group, and I had Lily, but we still found a way to get together. And without this trip, I wouldn't have been close to my friends. That's what made it really special.
Thanks.
So my name is Tanya Stonehouse, and I know there's going to be a thing on the TAs later on, but I was one of the lucky TAs who was able to go down and really bond with some of the younger kids in the middle school. It was a great opportunity, and before I begin, I just want to thank Miss Hanson, Miss Megan, all the lovely chaperones. It was an incredible experience, and thank you for keeping us in line. Now, the picture on the left is of the reflection pool, and then, of course, the Lincoln Memorial in the background. And as I'm sure my mom definitely knows, I've always been a big fan of the Lincoln Monument, and we actually went down as a family a few years ago, and the one thing I wanted to see, I want to make a trek to the Lincoln Memorial, and we did make it despite the fact there's thunder and lightning and all the crazy things. And when we went down here, that was actually right after we had seen the World War II Memorial, and it was just a beautiful day, a really great, again, all the kids that were with us. It was just an incredible experience, and that day, I believe it was the second or third day, and it was when we were finally calming down, finally getting into the rhythm of running around, seeing all the incredible things in DC, and it was just a great experience all around. And the picture on the right there is of the Capitol building, which, of course, I've seen pictures of it, I've seen it on the news, but when you really get to see it, and we got closer, don't worry, but when we got to see it there, it's nothing like the pictures show you. I mean, seeing the Capitol building of the United States of America, we went into the rotunda, which, again, was an incredible experience to be able to witness, the places where some of the most important, historical events in the country has happened. And none of it would have been possible without, again, Miss Hanson, Miss Meg, and our incredible chaperones, and it was just incredible. And if it weren't for, of course, the people who were able to help fundraise and get us down there, and of course this incredible school for giving us this opportunity, I don't know where, I don't know how it could have been such an enjoyable event.
These are my favorite photos because with the one on the left was at the Air and Space Museum, and it was fun because I did take that photo. I'm glad we decided to take the photo because if we didn't take it, then I wouldn't have anything to remember that museum except like one little swoosh at a gift shop. On the right, I forgot. But the Jefferson Memorial. But we were doing the Broncos dance. And yes. My favorite part about the trip was connecting with people I honestly, if I didn't go on the trip, I would never have talked to. But I connected with more of them, a lot closer with them, and became a better friend overall.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk about this a little bit. I'm Sophia, I'm a junior. I was also lucky enough to be a TA. This was actually my group that I TA'd for, and then the other picture is in front of the Washington Monument. That was the 6 TAs that got to be on the trip. So a little bit about like my experience with my group is that like I will say that I was definitely like, I'm very much a people person, but I will say that I was also a little nervous going into the trip of like, I had the thoughts of like, oh, if I'm gonna be a TA and I'm gonna have to like be with my group of like younger kids, like is that gonna get like tough sometimes because I'm not like around my friends. But like the second we got on the trip, like I'm lucky enough that one of the girls in my group, like Julia, I was her TA. I've played 3 sports with her so far this year. Like we've been on the field hockey team, basketball, and softball teams together. And like that brings us close like in a certain way, but also like we're all guilty of like if our friends our age are on the team with us, like I'm guilty of like, oh, I'm gonna spend more of my time with them. But on this trip, like I had no other choice but to like spend time with these younger kids, and that for me was huge because it brought like the bond that was already like existed prior. It just like made it so much stronger. And even with like not even just the kids in my group, like Hope was not in my group, but yet I spent so much of that trip like with her and around her, and that just really I think not only did it benefit me and like giving me like younger kids to be able to like help them, and I think it also like I was able to be someone for them because I always say that like sometimes it's hard when you're like I went on the trip when I was a freshman and I was not a TA. And like we didn't have any TAs, and it's like one thing if like something's really exciting you, or you have a question, or you're kind of like, oh, like you know, like I'm struggling with something right now. It's hard being away from home. Like you're not gonna want to necessarily just go run up to one of your teachers or one of the like staff members that's there and start like being like, oh, like I'm having a hard time because I'm missing home, or like this is bothering me right now, or oh, this is super exciting. Like I always say that kids are way more likely to go to talk to kids about stuff like that than an adult. So I feel like it really gave those younger kids like someone to be able to be like, oh, like I already know you, but like now we've built so much stronger of this bond. Like, okay, I'm gonna go to you when I'm struggling. And that I think for me, like I just have so many closer connections to these kids younger than me that I never would have thought I would have left the trip with. And at the end of the day, like I wasn't even thinking about like, oh, like I really wish I was with my friends right now. Like no, I didn't even think about that because I was having so much fun already with these younger kids that I never would have thought I would have had that kind of experience with. And then like being with the TAs, like we all are juniors, all of us were juniors and seniors, so we're already like kind of close enough. We've spent a lot of time in school together, but like every single night we would have like debrief meetings and we would all talk and meet up and we would get on the same page. We'd talk about how we think the day went, what do we think we need to do better. We would get really vulnerable with ourselves and be like, okay, as a leader in my group, like did I do this really well? Did I not do this really well? What things do we need to focus on? So we're being those like proper role models for the kids below us. And that just brought us even closer together and then allowed us to really make sure that we were doing the job that we were supposed to be there for. Like as much as the trip was for us and we got to learn things, we were also really there to help the kids below us, and that was really what we had to focus on, of making sure that we were being the proper role models for them and that we were helping them through the trip as much as possible. And so that for me made the trip very enjoyable because I've already been. So it was kind of like this turn of the trip, it was like, okay, I'm seeing some new things, but this trip isn't really about me. This trip is about like making sure that I'm there for those younger kids and helping them because they're seeing it for the first time. So that's at least my thing about my TAs.
So these pictures were sent in by another student, Jaden. Jaden couldn't be here with us tonight, but Jaden's father served in the Marines, and 2 of his friends that he served with actually passed away in active duty, and they were memorialized in Arlington Cemetery. So a small group was able to go with Jaden and find the headstones of his father's friends, and he was able to leave pennies because in Arlington there's a system of coins that each have different meanings. If you leave a penny, that means that you visited the headstone. If you leave a dime, that means you were there, or a nickel, that means that you were there and you served with them in basic training. If you leave a dime, that's if you served with them in active duty. And if you leave a quarter, that actually means that you were there with them when they passed away. And I think that definitely gave a different perspective of what the trip could be like for someone else, having someone that they might have known being in the cemetery and being able to have a connection with someone like that.
Well, I can just say, like, thanks for everyone's support. Like, like, I don't think you guys fully understand, like, to the extent of, like, how much your support means to all of us. If you haven't picked up on it by now, both myself, my brother, and my dad went on the trip this year. And so, like, 3 people from your family going on the trip, like, that's a lot. And like, I'll like, obviously, because I'd already been, like, I was kind of like the sacrifice of like, oh, like, if that's gonna be too much, like, I was gonna be the one that wasn't gonna go. But through all of the support and all of the fundraising, like, we didn't have to pay a single penny towards the trip. We had 3 people in our one family go, and through all of the fundraising that the Hansons do all the time, nonstop, no matter the circumstances, and then the support that they always receive every single time from you guys, and like, whether that's just like helping with fundraisers or being able to help sponsor a kid, like at the end of the day, like that's what allowed us to do. And we were like, it was able to work out for the 3 of us in my one family because of everyone who helps out. So
Thank you, guys. I think that's
Thank you, everyone. To the school choice.
Yes. So, next item is the school choice, which is an item we need to vote on every year, or the committee needs to vote on every year, whether to continue or to negate. It's my recommendation to continue utilizing the state school choice mechanism for the 25-26 school year. I provided you with a chart with potential available seats for the FY or the 25-26 school year. Those numbers may fluctuate based on enrollment, but we're looking at right now potential of upwards of 260 seats available.
I will move to accept the recommendation to continue utilizing the school choice mechanism for the 2025-26 school year.
Second. Any questions or comments on this chart?
If the numbers change, do we need to revote, or is it just a procedural thing?
I don't think you need to revote. I can keep you abreast of the numbers.
Yeah. Well, we'll approve this and then just get an update at the beginning of the school year.
Any other questions? All in favor of approving the school choice as recommended? Aye.
Aye.
Budget updates?
All right, so I have a budget presentation which is similar to the one that we shared last month with some updates, with some numbers with supplies and also personnel. But I will go through some of the slides a little bit quicker this time, but make sure that we really articulate kind of where we're at for FY26. I'll allow you a moment to read that. It's the mission statement that guides a lot of our work. We developed this mission statement about a year and a half ago, as part of a strategic planning opportunity. This mission statement, this vision statement, and our core objectives and core values will guide us through our work through 2027. One thing I want to just emphasize, that middle sentence, we are committed to continuous improvement, innovation, and the celebration of diversity, ensuring the delivery of high-quality education to all. I think that cannot be understated, that what we're doing this year, what we've done last year, as a team, as a district, we're looking to improve our instruction, improve our opportunities for kids, and that takes time, and that takes hard work, and I think that we have the staff that's dedicated to doing that work. The guiding principles for our budget process: to be as accurate and transparent as possible, inclusive planning process. This planning process involves our building principals, our directors, with their constant feedback about the needs and wants for their buildings and for the district, and looking at resource management, prioritizing the preservation of resources while also considering necessary growth and improvements. encouraging regular reevaluation and revision of budgetary allocations. Our three overarching objectives that if you look at either one of our buildings on the walls and the classrooms, you see some of these objectives. Curriculum enhancement, meeting the needs of all students, and fostering a culture of belonging. These are the three overarching objectives that, as they trickle down from the district to the school level, to building leaders, to teachers, this is why our students are here, and this is why our teachers are here, to deliver high-quality instruction, to make sure that we have the appropriate supports for all of our students, that we support our teachers in building their capacity, and also that we make sure that we are fostering a culture of belonging for all of our students and all of our families and for all of our staff members. Again, the ongoing goals for tonight is to receive feedback and direction and guidance from the school committee on next steps for this budget. I know that we are nearing the end of the school year, so we have timelines and we have meetings coming up next month. But this is, obviously, this is the newest revised edition of FY26 budget. Looking at some numbers for this current fiscal year and for next year, the big numbers I wanted you to pay attention, they're highlighted in purple, and the lower two blue items, the recommended budget, just over $8,024,000. The increase from FY25 to FY26 is just shy of $1 million, and that percentage increase is just over 14%. If you may recall, or an earlier rendition of this budget, this was this pretty similar budget plus the addition of 2 new positions. What you're seeing tonight is strictly a level service budget in the sense that there's no additional positions being added on. The positions that I had added in the initial presentation were a sub-separate classroom teacher for the elementary school and a full-time ABA for that classroom. And that the rationale behind those additions and adding those positions was to make sure that as a population of students at our youngest grades was growing that needed additional supports, we had the internal supports built in for those students. Because as we're going to talk about a little bit, as we probably know, the cost of sending students out of district, although often necessary, is expensive. And if we can build those programs internally, it's better for the student, it's better for their families, it's better for our teachers as well. So some of the driving expenses are the pieces that drive our expenses on a year-to-year basis. So the increase for transportation from FY25 to FY26 is just shy of $110,000. And that's with no additional services. Salaries from 25 to 26, we're looking at just under a $270,000 increase. This represents no new positions. Doesn't represent any reductions yet either, but this is no new positions. This is just increase for salaries for our teachers, both for STEP and COLA, projecting out for custodians, and our increases for our stipends and our coaching salaries. So I've shared several graphics like this, and this is a lot to take in, digest, but this is an earlier version of what we're looking at for how the budget is funded, both at the state level and also where the town comes in. The state funds school districts through what they call Chapter 70. The town is responsible for what they call net school spending. Those two numbers together make up the vast majority of the school budget. Doesn't cover it all, but that makes up a big chunk of what the school what the school budget would look like for FY25, for FY26, and beyond. If you look at the Chapter 70 money, it's bolded right in the middle for FY26. That $5.5 million is an earlier version of what the governor recommended for Chapter 70. That number has gone up slightly to $5,046,000, so an increase of around $41,000. So the higher that Chapter 70 goes, the less the town has to spend to make that whole. But as you can imagine, or as I've talked about in presentations past, there's a couple things with net school spending. On the average, districts in the Commonwealth spend about 126%. So the base level is 100%. So in this particular situation, 100% isn't necessarily a good thing. 100% is kind of the bare minimum. 126 is the state average. North Brookfield comes in around 113%. So over the minimum, but still below where the state average is. Some districts will chip in or kick in over 200%. Some districts who give less or closer to 100% typically have more money to offset with entitlement grants. The perfect example to that is Worcester Public Schools, which I know Worcester is very different than North Brookfield, but Worcester receives just shy of $28 million in entitlement grants, which pays for a lot of some of their special ed positions, a lot of positions that they need to fill in Worcester Public. So state aid and local contribution, like I mentioned, there's that $41,000 increase that we're projecting. As this budget has gone through the House and now the Senate, at some point we'll go back to the governor's desk and she will have the final say on this. We've seen a slight increase in Chapter 70, but we've seen a steady decrease in Chapter 70 over the last 10 years. So as that number decreases for the town of North Brookfield, that means the town needs to kick in more money every year to make that difference whole. So looking at the net school spending trend, as I mentioned, and you can see that North Brookfield is in the blue. So going back to 2020, North Brookfield was around 114, 14.4% over the threshold of 100%. Jumped up to 121 in 21. Went down slightly to 112 in 22. Stayed pretty much flat for 23. 24 was 113, and this current year is right around 113. Part of this initial presentation last month was looking at if we drop to 104%. And I'm going to show you kind of what that looks like and kind of where that may fall if we go even closer to 100%. As we've talked about, FinCom made the suggestion to support the school district at 100% of net school spending. Circuit breaker, for those of you who don't know, circuit breaker reimbursement is the state's mechanism to support the rising costs for our district tuitions and transportation. And every year it's kind of a waiting game in some respects to the state. We typically start our budget process, we come in at 70% of reimbursement for tuitions, and with the hope to get to 75, but the ultimate hope is to get to 90 at some point. 90 is the number that MASS, the Mass Association of School Superintendents, MASC, and a lot of our governing bodies are really advocating for, because 90% really starts to help districts like ours and others to make us whole with this growing number, this large number in our budget. Now, I want to be very clear about this, though. It's not apples to apples in the sense of reimbursement. There's also a threshold. So when I say 75% of tuition, if our tuition bill is, let's say, 1.7, that's rough, that's the projection for an FY26, it's not 75% of that. You have to hit a threshold of roughly $52,000 for each student that's out district placed before you start collecting that money. For transportation reimbursement, it's close to 54%. So it's a much lower amount that we reimbursed for transportation. Transportation for out district placements is very costly. So the combination of those two things is very costly for a lot of districts. Hence, that's why you try to advocate, you try to propose building programs internally. We have sub-separate classrooms in our two buildings. We like to, down the road, propose to bring in or to build more of those programs to support our students in district where we think that they are best educated, but also it saves the district money in the long term. This particular graphic shows the circuit breaker costs not reimbursed. So the rising cost of placements from 2019 to 2025. So you go back, 5-6 years ago, the district the placement costs weren't major. The amounts that we're not being reimbursed for have been over $200,000 for the last couple of years, and that's a heavy strain financially in the district. School choice is also another revenue stream for every district that votes to adopt school choice. School choice receiving are the students that we receive into the district. School choice out are the students that choose to school choice out of North Brookfield and go to other districts. For a general education student, that's $5,000 per student. And then that student is a special education student. There are what's called special education increments that are attached to that price tag. So if a student receives more services, that student costs more to educate. There's more money going out with that student or more money coming in for that student. And that's how that works. Over the last 5 years, we have nearly sent $5 million out and we've received just shy of 1.8 million, so a difference of 3.129 million. So we have more students going out than we are receiving. School choice, in theory, is like a town's reserve account, or it's supposed to be a town's reserve account. It's supposed to be the money that you can start to build up and to use, not all of it, but parts of it year to year to offset and support the budget. Unfortunately, the way that OSD, and that's the mechanism that sets the rates for our district tuition payments, that number keeps going up. It's starting to come down again. That number's gone up, or went up drastically 3 years ago. So those costs they skyrocketed up. We have had to use our school choice to offset more than we want to from year to year. That money basically goes back into the budget every year to balance the budget. So another graphic just to show the number of students that are choicing out. And going back to our budget, just to kind of encapsulate what the three major budget drivers always are. And salaries equate for 70% of our budget. But FY25 to FY26, we saw a $268,000 increase. And that still may change slightly because we are still in contract negotiations with one of our bargaining units. But we have settled our teachers, so that number has been changed to represent our teaching staff. Sped tuition, like I mentioned, this is for our out-of-district placements for our 13 or so students that we project for FY26. So this number actually went down, which is obviously a good thing financially, but you still see it's a $1.7 million part of our budget. To be very clear, we know this is a big number, but we know that we are morally, ethically, and legally obligated to give these students, our students, the best education possible. So if we cannot give them that education in one of our two buildings, we need to send them out. In transportation, like I mentioned, that is a number that with our 5-year contract with AA, that number keeps going up. We're going to talk about some potential ideas to make that number go down a little bit, but that number goes up by 6% each year contractually over the next, I think we're in year 3 of that new contract. And that represents, that $109,000 represents almost a 12% increase from FY25 to FY26. So again, looking at the special education out-of-district placement numbers, just gives you a sense of these costs. Like I said, it's a slight decrease for 25 to 26. So I'm going to start with this slide as far as reductions, and we talked about this, and I believe this is where the committee landed on initially with some reductions. This number has changed. Last meeting was at 377, and looking at some staff realignment and offsets, and what that means is staff that are going to be leaving the district, have left the district. Some new hires that we've hired for FY26. We're looking at an additional savings, a total savings of $180,000 with some of those staff realignments and offsets. The other major spot I want you to look at, I actually highlighted the wrong column, so my apologies, but the TAG grant offset. We notified last week they're going to receive an additional $40,000 in target assistant grant for the high school for next year. That $40,000 will offset some of our curriculum supplies. So that total number of curriculum budget reductions for supplies, from fuel oil to STEM teacher offset to transportation for athletics, to potentially a bus elimination, which we're going to talk about, to some supplies at both buildings, to some custodial services. That EM is extraordinary maintenance, so we had to kind of streamline some of those accounts. That total number comes out to $480,000, $311.50. That's a $103,000 increase from last month's budget reductions for this category of reductions. This is not touching any personnel. This is just supplies and things and some programming pieces, but this is no personnel. So we talk about positions. And unfortunately, when we're talking about reductions, positions are, I don't want to say the word easy, but those are the most money is involved with salaries, correct? So looking at salaries as bigger chunks of money to eliminate. And this list came about from multiple conversations with directors, with building principals, members of the school committee, just about where we want to go and where we're at. And there's nothing I like about this list, nothing we like about this list. When I talk about continuous improvement, we cannot make continuous improvement by continuing to eliminate positions. We understand that we're a small district. We understand that we are one of the smallest in the state, and that our enrollment has been declining, like many districts around us and many districts in the Commonwealth. But to continue to eliminate positions and in many ways ask teachers to do more with less is very challenging. I want to be very clear that no position on this list is a position that I would like to eliminate. But if I were to be asked what two positions I feel I would want to bring back first, the two positions highlighted in green would be my first priority. Our 1.0 art teacher and 1.0 music teacher. Those two positions, so the art teacher is currently district-wide. That position has been district-wide for several years. If we were to bring back music, we would phase music back in district-wide, so K through 12 for the district. Currently, we have a .4 music teacher at the elementary school and a full-time music teacher at the junior senior high school. If we were to bring back that position, we would fund that position so it's a district-wide position. Going through this list from top to bottom, you see a district-wide instructional coach. And again, I want to stress that while this position has indirect contact most of the students, they have direct contact with all of our teaching staff. They are working with our teaching staff, working through coaching cycles, working on professional development, at the forefront with building capacity with our teachers. And we've had this position for 3 years. It started grant funded. It's been adopted by the budget since then. But this position has been very valuable to the district in building capacity and, again, moving us in that path of continuous improvement. We have a 1.0 ELA teacher, which that position is currently at the high school. We would do some restructuring with the elimination of that position so that we would have a humanities model at the middle school, and the additional classes will be absorbed by the other ELA teacher at the junior senior high school. We eliminate one full-time phys ed teacher, so we'd have one full-time phys ed and wellness teacher for the entire district. And the sections that person cannot cover, we picked up by a few other teachers who, I know one is currently doing it now. We currently have a .5 media specialist at the elementary school. That position would be eliminated, which would eliminate a lot of access to our media center, our library at the elementary school. And as you probably know, if you have an elementary school student, that reading and reading comprehension is a very big part of the curriculum instruction that we do for all of our K through 5 students, that we want them to be able to read, comprehend, and write as they transition, but also when they get to the junior senior high school. That's really one of those most valuable skills every student can possess. Again, I mentioned the music teacher. We have a 1.0 L teacher, English language learner teacher, that we can pair that back to a 0.5. Again, we have a small number of L students in our district. That number will be static for next year. But again, if we get an increase in students, we will have to revisit this position to make sure that we can provide appropriate supports and also support the teachers who may be working with those students who are learning English as a second language. One paraprofessional for the district, and then the two positions that I mentioned, art and music, which would be full-time district employees. They would teach K through 12. They would have to teach K through 12 if they were still in the mix. So again, in total, these positions from across the district, we're looking at an additional cut of $448,000, $180. That is just in salaries. On the indirect side, we have some insurance costs that would equate to roughly $78,000 in total insurance savings if some of those employees who took benefits were no longer part of the district. That total savings of those three graphics I just showed is right around $105 million, $1.05 million in savings. And that's very close to the target of 100% net school spending. And the things with salaries that we still don't know, we have some projections we don't know yet, are based on ongoing negotiations that are still ongoing. We're going to talk, I think, later this evening about our teacher contracts, which we have settled. And I think that was a very productive and positive process, and we're doing the same with our other bargaining units that we're still negotiating with, but those are not completed just yet. So I went through all these slides at the last meeting, and I just kind of went through them just now. But all of these positions, and the loss or the impact of reductions for these positions will be felt by all of our students. Some greater than others. I will fully admit that some positions we can retool and absorb some of those students to make it work. But anytime you lose a staff member, anytime students are impacted. And I think that, you know, what kind of rises to the top, as I mentioned, I highlighted those positions in green, to potentially lose the arts could be devastating for a lot of kids. And that's why I put those two positions near the very top of this priority list. One thing that was mentioned in the supply list or the non-personnel list that I mentioned earlier in this presentation, and I know this doesn't affect net school spending, but this is roughly $90,000 off the overall budget, is the elimination or reducing from 3 to 2 school buses for our daily runs. And I've talked to Pam from AA, and we've gone back and forth. She has been able to show me that she can develop some new routes to support our kids. We'd have to shift some bus stops around. So where we're not typically a door-to-door kind of service now, there will be some kind of changing or moving of some sites, making those bus stop sites bigger, more students. There'll be some, walking to those new sites, but it is doable. There would be an increase in time on the bus, where for most students it's roughly 25 or so minutes. It would increase by at least 15 minutes or more. So you're looking at students being on buses still under an hour, which is kind of our cutoff, but closer to 45 minutes for some students being on the bus, which we all recognize is a long time. But if that's a way that we can save some money, I think it's an opportunity for us to look at. Additionally, I know the question came up that we looked at a fee structure for buses as well. And I think that a fee structure, although I know some districts who do that, it would be far less than $90,000. And I think in a community like North Brookfield, where we try to make everything as accessible as possible, to add a fee is one more obstacle for many families. It's not something I would fully support this time. Just to wrap this part of the presentation up, I mentioned this I think earlier tonight, mentioned this last month rather. Level service is maintenance. We're not looking to add additional positions. The program I talked about tonight, the ICP, the Advanced Manufacturing, that is all grant funded outside of our teacher's salary. And part of the offset, we're going to offset part of that salary by one of our grants. So all those new things that we are doing in Open SciEd and Project Lead the Way, our Advanced Manufacturing Pathway, the vast majority of that is grant funded. We have the positions in place, which will keep those in place. But the durables, the consumables, the training for those students and those staff members is all grant funded. So it's no burden to the district. But level service is maintenance. It does not add new programs. It does not add the new programs I talked about for sub-separate students at the elementary school level. It does not add that support. It underscores the fiscal responsibility and counters any perception of a wish list spending. So we talked about the tuition for our special ed students. We don't really have any built-in fluff there. So the trouble with that is it gives you a real idea of how much we're going to spend for that part of the budget. But at the same time, if a student moves into the district that we need to service or support, that money is not built into the budget. Cuts can wind up costing more. I mentioned this. I'll mention this one more time. The plus positions that I mentioned back in January, this $100,000 to add a sub-separate classroom at the elementary school level for ASD, that could end up costing the district much more in the short and long term. But that's something that we had to take off the table to keep this a level service budget. I don't have any data to show about property values. I know people in the audience spoke about it, and I know there's obviously differing opinions on that. But I think that North Brookfield has always prided itself on our school district, and I think that as a homeowner myself, when I look at potentially buying, both now and down the road, I look at school districts. I look at what we have as a return on investment for our kids and our families. And I think that there's a lot to be said about what's going on in these two buildings and the work that our teachers do on a daily basis. Diminished programs can make the community less attractive to families. Again, I'm not supporting this with any data right now, but I think that's just a fact. When you move to a community that has one school or starts to diminish the opportunities for students, school-age students, I think it is less appealing for many people. Why is level service worth fighting for? Level service will maintain critical programs and services for every student. We keep those positions. Those are critical positions for our students. If we start to eliminate those positions, we're going below level service. We want to prevent the loss of art and music. We don't want to cut ELA teachers. We don't want to cut our instructional coach. We want to make sure our students have access to a rigorous curriculum, but we want to also make sure our staff feel supported with their instruction as well. I think a level service budget reflects responsible stewardship. Okay? Increases are driven by mandates and inflation, not program expansion. And further cuts would have more damage and impact on our student achievement, engagement, and equity. Again, it's going back to that comment about continuous improvement. If we continue to cut positions, we're going to really build obstacles for that continuous improvement for our students and our families. So again, these are the outlined potential reductions, which we've talked about. They haven't changed drastically from last month. Some of the numbers have been refined. But in total, you're looking at just north of $1 million in cuts for those positions and those supplies / materials for our students and staff.
Thank you for going through that. Let's see.
Make a motion to accept it and we can talk about it.
Yeah, motion to accept the budget as presented, and then we can discuss it.
I move to accept the budget, the budget modifications being recommended by Mr. McCormick at this time.
I'll second.
So,
I'll start by saying that I would like to do whatever we can to keep that art and music line in this budget not being cut. Art and music teacher, those are two things that I hear a lot about in the school. We have, I believe, the music department is even playing in the Memorial Day parade this weekend. So they've done that for the last couple of years, and they do a really good job, and it's good for everyone to see what the kids can do without coming into the school. And I think that's important. They're trying to build that up. We kind of lost it during COVID. It went down to basically a non-existent school band, and it's been built back up over the last couple of years. It's still not a huge band, but those kids that are in it are very talented, and the momentum that they're establishing doesn't come in a day or a year. It takes time, and the enthusiasm from the younger grades coming up too is also an important part of growing that. And I would hate to kill it now. Now this first one, that is what we voted on last time, was 377.
Correct.
This is kind of an amended version of that number, so we found another 100.
That really found, it was position, a retirement that we rehired for next year that was well under.
So we're now looking at, so the previous one has now become this.
Correct.
For clarity's sake.
The $40,000, which I mistakenly did not highlight, is the addition for the tag grant for the high school for next year.
One thing I'd like to bring up, and it's been talked about in the past, so not saying I'm for or against it, really. I don't know enough, to be honest with you, what my decision would be if I had to vote on it. But as far as building administrators go with between K through 12, could you just explain? So I know in the past it's been suggested maybe, well, why do we need 2 principals? Why can't we just have a K through 12 principal? Can you talk a little bit about that scenario if we were to discuss something like that?
So are you saying one principal for both buildings?
And I'm not suggesting it, but it's been talked about in the past, and like I said, yeah, so with the volume of total number of students, is that something that would even be possible? Is it allowed?
I don't think it would be a wise decision, and I say that because, yes, we fully recognize that our district is not large, but when you think about the 2 building principals we have, they are both singletons, so at any given moment, and if you're in the elementary school, Mr. Murphy, who's not here unfortunately this evening, is getting called multiple times every hour to different situations. To be able to toggle back from one school to the other for situations that may arise in the high school is a very daunting task. And I think the other piece, and that's just putting out fires on a daily basis. I think the other piece, and more important piece, is that, you know, we really want to have instructional leaders, right? We don't just want to have disciplinarians and people who manage discipline. So we want people who have expertise in the classroom level at either the junior senior high school or the elementary school to lead those schools and those decisions. So, you know, we have 2 principals who have backgrounds in elementary and one in junior senior high school who are doing that work instructionally for our teachers. So to find that person to do both is also a challenge as well. You know, I'm not saying that you know, there aren't opportunities for other combining of forces, but I think that's a very tricky one to look at.
I think the teachers are wonderful.
So the other question I just had real quick, in comparison to other districts, are we alone in that we don't have any assistant principals? Is that, how common is that?
It's really uncommon. Yeah.
And just so everybody's aware, there are no assistant principals here at either building?
I don't know when, it's been several years since there's been an assistant. I know that prior to me arriving as the principal of the high school, there was, I think the year prior, there was an assistant or director of instruction and curriculum that was phased away. Within 10 years, there was a grant writer for the district, and I think within the last 12 years, there was assistant principals, at least at the high school level. So those have been long taken out of the budget. Long ago, I should say.
Yep. There was I thought I heard you mention in your suggestions here, or where you thought might be possible on the additional 480, was one of them a para was that special ed, or?
What's the question? I'm sorry.
Was one of the suggested line items a position for a para? I think it was on there. Is that correct?
There was a paraprofessional that was on the personnel reductions.
Is that for a specific area or just?
It would just be, it would be one of our paraprofessionals.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
In music, that gets us to this. All right, 885, 613. And that includes the bus too.
Being one of the newest members, maybe this has already been explored, or Mr. McCormick, maybe it's not a possibility, but I'm just wondering what some of the class sizes look like in the elementary school level, and if we've ever reached out to other districts that might be doing it. Has it ever been an option to do a split grade level class if the numbers were low enough?
It hasn't come up in serious conversation. I know what you're talking about. I think there's one grade level, the number escapes me right now, that has lower numbers, but the tough part with going, so every classroom from kindergarten through grade 5 is 2 teachers, 2 classrooms. So one of the benefits of that, obviously, is having very low class numbers for those students and those families. So you're looking at 20 to 22 kids per class. I think there's one grade where you could probably get away with one bigger class, but the problem with that is then it's that blip.
It trickles.
We haven't had, like I said, any serious conversations about combining grades. I've never been in a district where it's been done effectively. I know it's been discussed as a cost savings. I think having only 2 classes per grade is I think, again, there's pros and cons to it, right? Because if there's you need to make changes, you only have one other option, right? But I think it keeps those class sizes very small. And I think it allows those teachers to work very closely together and to really kind of align their curriculum together too. It's an opportunity we can look at. We talked about it. I've talked about Mr. Murphy. It's come up in conversation, but nothing formally.
Okay. There's no like standout grade level data in that building right now that's much smaller.
Second and third are both around 30 kids. First as well. But you got 4th, 5th, and 6th are over 40.
Right, that are big.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? I mean, if we're, I'm not in favor of shutting down arts and music either. I don't think anybody's in favor of that. I would hope not, but that's just my opinion. If we're not doing that, where do we go tonight with this conversation?
So there's a couple things at play because we have to have public hearing at some point once we've approved this, right? So I think if we pass a vote here, then we have a public hearing, and then we have to submit something for the town meeting. I will vote for this if we can keep the arts and music teachers, the full-time art and music teachers. Yes, it's one per building, or it's one covering both buildings, but the total elimination of that, I can't fathom going to school. I wasn't a band kid, but I was an art kid when I was in school, and that was what got me in the doors sometimes. And that would give us a budget savings at this point of $885,613, based on just putting those 2 positions back into the budget. It's the same. We had the same conversation last month. None of this is good. None of seen the list of things. ELA teacher, that hurts. That's, they're doing really good work trying to get the ELA scores up and all those standardized test scores, working on that. The district-wide instructional coach, it seems like the outlier on this, and I believe we were using grant money for that prior to this, or some of
in year one, the last couple of years now.
It was something we were able to try out, and it helps align the curriculum and do all that. and make sure that as the kids move through the school system, they're not being taught redundantly. I remember when I was a kid learning the same thing in history class over and over again. We always made it to just short of the Civil War, and then we'd stop and go back and start again. And that district alignment and instructional coach helps make sure that the students are learning new things each year and progressing along the track to success. High school PE teacher, high school kids need to move around too. It's just one of those things. Media specialist. I've just recently become like a library guy where I go to the library in town. And it's pretty nice when you have someone that knows you. You walk in there and they can recommend books and they can guide you to what you're looking for. And having a person who's dedicated to that, that's a huge deal. Especially when we're trying to encourage kids to learn to read. Elementary school music teacher, high school band is fed directly from the elementary school. You gotta get them into stuff. Yes, and we do have that program that we've been working on to incorporate the music and arts into school, but to have that special music teacher, that's a big deal for the kids. ELL teacher, and then a paraprofessional. The paraprofessionals inevitably is going to be on the list, but they play a huge role in assisting the teachers with kids, keeping kids in the classroom, because that's in the end, that's the goal, is to keep these kids in a classroom with their peers, with their friends, with that extra assistance that they need to help make the most of their day in the school. None of those are good. All of those are things that if I have to pick, I got to say I'm in favor of voting for it with the amendment that we keep the full-time art teacher and the full-time music teacher. And see where that gets us.
I have a question on staff. Tim, you mentioned the high school gym teacher, so I don't know if Mr. Diorio or Mr. McCormick would be the one to answer this one, but in high school, so right now the model is K through 6 gym teacher, or K through 5 gym teacher, 6 through 12, is that right?
Yes, so we have phys ed for K through 5.
Yep.
Over there, which is school in 6 through 12.
Yep. So what do we have in the high school, in the 6 through 12 level, typical gym class? What does that look like numbers-wise?
Per class, numbers per class?
Yeah.
15 to 20. Okay. We do have one class taught by Mr. Reardon. So Mr. Reardon's K through 5, and teaches one seventh grade class over here. Mr. Kim teaches the remainder.
And is that freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year? Everybody's?
Yes.
7 and 8, obviously.
Yeah, so Mr. Kinnon teaches everything but 7th grade. And that includes health too.
So if we're talking about potentially cutting one of those, how does that work in terms of, is that one gym teacher able to facilitate even the state minimum of health?
Yeah, so we've already looked at that, created a schedule in case we created, Ms. Earhart's here, but we've probably created 20 different schedules with different iterations of what we're looking at. And if we had to go that route with one gym teacher for the district, we would have some other teachers pick up electives, so there'd be some options for gym classes that way.
So going away from staff for a minute here, I know you have, so is there anything, I mean, I'm sure you've been through this a million times, but, so we have fuel oil, 40,000. Is there anything else like that we have out there that, and how were we able to save 40,000 on fuel oil? Like, can we get any stingier with anything else, or are we pretty much there?
Well, that was looking at the last couple of years, that's roughly 15,000 gallons is
Okay.
what we could probably do without. That's a tricky endeavor because
The weather matters.
Weather matters. We go through an oil bid process every year, so we can fix it at a set rate. But looking at the numbers, we can get by. We feel with 15,000 gallons less. I don't know if there's areas like that. That was kind of something that we took a calculated risk on. You know, I think there's opportunities to go back and look at different things, but I don't know if there's gonna be any silver bullet out there that's gonna.
I'm thinking several things together, maybe.
Yeah,
you know,
right,
rather than
right.
a staff position, you know.
The other thing, Matt, you've seen it before too, is there isn't any contingency.
Right.
Like,
Oh, I'm aware, yeah.
When you look at the line items for the buildings, I mean, you've been through this process,
Yeah.
it's like, what if something breaks?
Well, that was.
It's just not there.
That was gonna be part of my question, is what was brought up tonight was, if a family moves to town that has a child in need of special needs services, and, you know, we have an increase to that without any backup reserve, what is the process for that? Do you even know? Or do we know what?
So we have, and it wouldn't potentially cover the entire cost. We do have roughly 20,000 that we have in a kind of an emergency account, if you will, for special education tuition. But there may be additional real-time cuts too, if that were to happen. It's, again, I think it's you look at those numbers. That nearly 1.8 million in outage replacement cost is a big number. It's a big part of our budget, and to put more padding in there is really hard to justify. So it's a real number. And OSD has gone down. Like I mentioned, it was 2 years ago, it was at over 14%, and now it's at roughly 4%. So it's come down a great deal, but you're still looking at an increase every year. I don't know if that answers your question, Mr. Grant.
I guess what I'm getting at is, so we're operating streamlined as it is, I think probably before this year. We get even more streamlined. Do we run what happens at the end of the year if we don't have $500,000 in placements that have, you know, to pay? I'm just putting it out there for everybody.
Well, the hope is to always bring students back,
Yep.
right? And I think we need to do our due diligence and bring some kids back when they're ready as quick as we can.
Yeah.
But again, that's not a decision I can make, and it's a decision that's made by the team, the family. So I don't want to say that's an easy decision to make or it's something I can just do very quickly, but I think, you know, short, long term, we want to bring some of those students back in the district. And as I mentioned earlier tonight, building some of those programs will foster some of that. I think to continue to keep kids in district is a way to save some money.
I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but I'm just thinking outside the box here. Electricity. What do we pay for electricity? Is there anything we can do there in terms of, I know we kind of, sort of, solar was looked into in the past, I think, but.
Yeah, I think it was told to me it was looked in maybe within the last 10, 12 years, and I don't know why it didn't really take off. I believe there was some conversation around building a solar, it's called a solar park or solar.
I think it was a canopy.
Yeah. I don't know why it didn't take off. We have not explored that. You know, the electricity rates we get are typically rates right from the town that we just figure into the budget. There's a percentage increase every year. You know, our heating elements of the two buildings, we have put some money through a grant, about $100,000 into the software to improve some of that. But our burner system at the elementary school is old and somewhat tired, so, you know, we are probably not as efficient as we could be, but that's not something that we can just fix with this budget.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw this out there. What would happen if you moved K through 6 into this school 2, section it off, give that building up, then you wouldn't do maintenance on that building or electric or anything like that, you'd just be dealing with this building.
So I'm sorry, I know you're talking about closing a building, but what is the question as far as?
I mean, could you do that?
Could you do?
I mean, would it save you any money by just dealing with this building, one principal, and then one PE?
For what grades?
Bring the whole school,
Saying
like,
bring the elementary
yeah,
school over here.
like getting capped at the high school here too, but just section the building off.
I don't know, I mean, I suppose we could look into that. I don't know how that would look as far as, I know we have empty classrooms here, but I don't know if there's enough room for all of those students, per se. I mean, I think this building, I don't know what the enrollment, what the size for this building was when they built it. It's a valid question, Dan. I don't know. I'd have to look into that more.
Just throwing it out there.
Three of the big reasons that we hear about people leaving the school: art, music, sports. And while this, when you look at this, it's difficult to look at these numbers and what we're cutting. It's a way to try to preserve art, music, and sports for the kids that are staying here and staying dedicated to the school. I think we owe that to them.
If I could add on top of that, cutting the high school gym teacher position, you're losing more than just a physical education teacher. You're losing someone that a lot of these kids trust and will talk to with their problems if they can't talk to one of the guidance counselors. And you're also going to be cutting short our basketball program by taking a very seasoned, great coach and having to try to find someone to bring in place of Coach King. Actually, just for our students that are in here, if there's one adult that and say the guidance counselors are busy, can you just raise your hands for me if that person is probably going to be Kinnan that you're going to go talk to? Thank you.
Can I just ask, what do we have for sports teams?
So we have our co-ed field hockey in the fall, boys middle school basketball, girls basketball, and boys varsity basketball, as well as softball in the spring. And we have a baseball co-op with David Prouty, and I believe the door is open for football, a football co-op with David Prouty as well.
You guys have any soccer co-ops?
I'm not sure right now, but again, that could also be something that could be looked into with David Prouty.
Who is the current athletic director?
Is Kim?
Do you know if she's looked into that, the soccer co-op?
Mr. Joy can probably speak to that better than I can.
So she's currently looking at co-oping with Prouty for soccer, boys and girls, football, as Dante said, cross country, trying to think about it, and baseball, boys baseball.
We should do a co-op with Quaver off the top to soccer kids in
So when was the last soccer team here? The last season we had a soccer team on varsity.
2 years ago, we had it as more of a JV club sport because we couldn't fill the full team. And I think 3 years ago was probably the last time we had a team with a full varsity team.
That was the girls, the boys was the year before. The girls went out, the girls was 3 years ago, the boys was 4.
So since then, has there been interest from students in playing soccer? Or?
A little bit. Soccer was one of our teachers, Mr. Wahami, is exploring the possibility of a club soccer, almost like a co-ed soccer for our students for next year.
Certainly enough kids on the youth soccer teams if we could just keep them in district.
Well, I know a lot of them would actually come back if there was a soccer team.
That's like why I was asking about the athletic director. I didn't know if there was any conversation or anything.
Just,
so.
I can clarify that. I spoke, discussed with the athletic director, David Prouty, and they applied for a co-op for football, cross-country, and golf with North Brookfield, and North Brookfield said no to soccer.
There's a reason for that.
I don't know.
What's the reason? It's, their precious teams. Right? And it's, Quabog's a little bit easier, kind of like how we coached. Very talented.
I mean, if the door's open, I feel like soccer is definitely something that we should still explore, because when you have a co-op with one school for another sport, I feel like they could cut those ties if we go to Quabog for a co-op for just soccer. I feel like you have to stay loyal in that co-op, so I think looking into soccer isn't something that would be a bad idea.
Also, cutting the high school gym teacher does decimate part of our sports program, which also leads to the potential of having even more kids choice out like, immediately if they suspect that those programs might not be here either. The programs that aren't as clear on the spreadsheet.
Any other questions or comments? I know I haven't said a lot because this isn't a great list to look at, to contemplate cutting programs of any kind. Between the high school phys ed teacher position and the full-time art and music teachers positions, it's $177,000. $177,890. That we need to keep in the budget. If it was just music and arts, it's $120,340. It seems foolish to cut programs that retain students in district.
We want to amend it, keep the gym teacher too? High school phys ed?
I would say so.
All right. So then I'd like to further amend my amended motion that we accept this with the understanding that we will not at this time be eliminating the full-time art teacher, full-time music teacher, and the high school phys ed teacher. Which, based on my math, gives a total budget decrease from the asked budget of $828,063.
I will second your motion.
Any other questions or comments?
I just want to hopefully clear something up for myself and probably other people out there. So where it's looking like the school's asking for 1.2 million more this year. That's how it looks, correct? Or that we don't have money for. Salaries went up 268,000 roughly. Tim, and I know you probably went through all this on those slides, but can you just give a quick overview or a summary of, I know we're not asking for more positions or anything, so from that 268 to the 1.2, can you just kind of Cliff Notes version or make it so everybody can understand how we get there?
Yeah, it's actually, I think it's just shy of 1 million.
Okay, sorry.
But it's salaries, it's transportation, it's less offsets, it's an increase of all the supplies that, the things that we order, we use, it all goes up slightly, right? There's an increase for most things. I mean, so all of those things kind of make that total picture.
How much less is the offset portion of that amount?
It was somewhere around $400,000.
So you haven't, in other words, just for clarity's sake, technically increased the budget 14%?
No.
Okay. So you're not asking for 14% more in addition than you did last year?
No.
Okay.
We're not asking for new positions. We're not asking for new programs.
And so at the last meeting, I know Tim, Mr. Canada, to differentiate
We
here.
should sit Tim's at different ends.
You had made reference to discussions that you had had with the finance committee over the last couple of years that we the school committee knew this day was approaching. I guess you used the cliff was coming.
There was specifically in regards to ESSER funds.
The 400,000. So in that time period, between the school committee, FinCom, just FinCom, I mean, has there been any talk about finding that money? Like, how do we increase revenue or anything?
Most of the talk has been publicly broadcast and not very productive.
Yeah.
So
the answer is no.
we all talk about it, but we don't make any progress.
I'm just curious because I mean, if it's something that had been mentioned at the town level, ultimately the town the school is just one part of the town's budget. I mean, I know it's the biggest portion, but if we're a town and we're working together, I would think that would have been something that was a goal to get to that, where we knew we were gonna be missing these $400,000. How does the town get that money to pay for the school? No, or is that, I mean, maybe I'm thinking about it wrong, I don't know.
Well, part of the conversation has been it's part of its messaging. I mean, we just saw Spencer vote one down, an override down, and the biggest thing there was people that maybe went to the school, maybe their kids went to the school, and now it's like the school doesn't exist to them anymore. It's just a burden on them, and it becomes an us against them thing. We hear it every year. If we pay for the school, and the roads are going to continue to fall apart and stuff. It's not. It requires a more holistic view of the town, and how we need to reevaluate everything financially, not just the school. And when you message those sorts of funding changes and adjustments to taxes and all that stuff, it can't just be this is going to a failing school. The fact that the school is not failing is a message that gets lost quite a bit. And the kids, I think, who are in the high school. We watched a thing about their Washington DC trip. Dante's down there advocating better than almost any one of us sitting up here for what's going on in the school. He's there firsthand. He's living that experience, and it's really sad that a pretty decent chunk of the kids that are coming, they don't make it across the parking lot from the elementary school. And it's not for any particular experience that they've had here. It's just they've been told from a very young age that you need to go somewhere else in high school. And I think our job as a school committee falls to not only working through this budget and in this sort of situation, making hard choices, but also speaking about the triumphs and the achievements and giving a platform for the kids at the school here to show what they're learning, to talk about their phys ed teacher and how, you know, it's not just a teacher, it's a resource for them as they're growing up. You know, you need an adult to talk to sometimes, and if you don't have that, it's a lot. So, you know, it was great to see the kids here tonight talking about, you know, even outside of the DC trip, just advocating for their school that they love and they support and they stay with it. And I think we owe it to them to do the best we can to get the money, but we also owe it to the future kids coming to talk about how the town is not just benefited by the school, but it creates that loyalty to the town. You know, a town can't live on just seniors that stay in town forever. You need young families coming in. You need something to make them want to move into the town. And if the only stuff going out on Facebook or wherever else is, you know, this school stinks, that we're fighting a losing battle, and it's not even anything with proof. I think we all know that you can just say stuff on the internet, and a good chunk of people will just believe it. And that's, hopefully our school is educating kids to not fall for that sort of stuff. You know, and it's sad that we're fighting like several fronts of a war here. The most immediate thing, we got to figure out this budget, but we also have to change the way we're messaging. We have to change the way the town thinks of the school, and we owe that to not just the kids that are in it now, the kids who were here before, and the kids who are coming up.
One of the main themes I heard tonight from the students was the sense of community and belonging that is being formed, even between grade levels, which is something you don't see in bigger schools. And you don't have that connection between grade levels in a larger school. And I can speak to that. Maybe if you get involved in a particular, like in band or choir, whatever kind of group you happen to be in, you might see that kind of cross-pollination between grades. But to see that across a school is rare. And you know, there is a thriving community here, and it's not only just the community aspect, but the education being received. There's a lot of opportunities here, and you know, here's something for the people in town. Did you know at the high school there are 2 PhDs teaching the students? Anyone ever consider that? You know, we don't have run-of-the-mill teachers. We have excellent teachers. And people that, I see the stuff online, and I have to duct tape my hands to a desk or something to keep from typing, because the stuff that people say is just uninformed and plain ignorant of what actually takes place in this school. And it would be great if they actually came up to the programs, see what's going on, like the arts night, the STEM night. There's a lot of great things going on, but to just say, you know, the teachers are bad, the administration's bad, you have not interacted with them. And until you do, you cannot say such things. And that's a big part, certainly the messaging. And I know in previous meetings I've tried to highlight, invite people out. Come, I'm glad there's this many people here for this meeting, and I'm glad the students have spoken up, and teachers and community members. But please come to the events, see the school, come see what the kids are doing here. It's on the walls, there's murals, there's artwork. There's so much going on, And it's really important as a community, not just the school community, but for the town at large to be involved and to actually see what you're paying for. And I would say that there is a bang for the buck. And the success stories that we've heard from students and students past, I think it speaks volumes as to what can be accomplished in this district. Which again, comes back around to any cuts are not, it's just not, it's not an enjoyable task. There's no other comments or questions. We have a motion to approve a modified reduction which preserves the full-time phys ed teacher, full-time art teacher, and full-time music teacher, correct?
Specifically the high school phys ed was the
Yes,
one that was
high
called
school
out in
phys
that
ed.
list. Yep.
Any other questions or comments?
That last motion was not cutting any phys ed, correct?
Correct. All in favor of the modified reductions? Aye. I think that,
When you get that written up, can you make sure we all get copied on it prior to just a layout for everyone, how that blends in with the other, the overall packet?
Yeah.
We're seeing, increasingly streamlined presentations here, but
Mhm.
all the, I can sit with them and go over the other stuff too, but just see the. Sorry.
it's all right. Moving on to the administrators' reports.
All right, at the high school, on May 9th, we had our junior-senior prom at the Hitchcock Tavern. Over 40 students were in attendance. The students were well behaved and all had a great time. I want to give a special thanks to our school committee member, Mr. Rondeau, for his world-class DJ service that night.
I don't know about world-class.
Well, I thought it was great anyways. I think it was great. Also, May 9th, earlier that day, Miss Earhart took a group of seniors to Credit for Life at Temtasco High School. If you're not familiar with Credit for Life, students learn real-life budgeting and money management skills that they'll use throughout their lifetime. Studies have shown young adults who receive financial education are less likely to carry credit card debt and more likely to apply to and receive college grants and financial aid. I know this is a great thing for our college seniors. This week, starting tomorrow, actually, our middle school and 10th grade students will be taking the math MCAS. Dr. M has been teaching an MCAS boot camp to prepare the kids for the test. She worked with our 10th graders and also our middle school students. So good luck to all our math scholars this week. Friday, 5/23 is the last day of classes for seniors. They'll be taking their finals the following week. We want to invite everyone to the Senior Awards Night on 5/29 at 6 p.m. in the elementary school auditorium. Scholarships and awards will be given out that night. Then on Friday, 5:30, we will have our class day and field day. And then that night will be our senior banquet at 7 p.m. at Hartman's in Barry. And then Sunday, 6/1, is our high school graduation at 2 p.m. in the elementary school auditorium. Looking forward to seeing our amazing seniors graduate. And that is my report for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Iorio. Any questions or comments for him? absent. I'll just breeze through his report. There was a senior citizen breakfast. Through the help of Karen Farrington, North Brookfield Elementary hosted its first senior citizen breakfast. Former stars of the month were nominated to be the wait staff, and some high school volunteers were the chefs and coffee crew. They hosted a full table of seniors. They had fresh pancakes, fruit, sausage, water, and coffee. Says, it was so tasty, some seniors had a second helping. It was nice to have a small crowd for the first run because we learned and reflected on our setup, our offerings, and our ordering process. We're looking forward to having one more this year, and then we'll bring this into next year. They had a therapy dog at the school. MCAS can be a stressful time for students. We're lucky to have a therapy dog come through our building, and Maple, the dog, got a lot of attention on this trip. Maple and Charlie have been the two that have come through the building the most this year. Thank you to Ms. Marr for organizing these visits and making sure all students who want to see them have the opportunity. Friendship salad. On May 2nd, the pre-K staff organized a friendship salad and sunflower planting activity that coincides with one of their learning targets around seeds. Students each brought in an approved fruit in a bag that was cut up into bite-sized pieces. One at a time, the students were called up by the staff to dump their fruit into a large container. One by one, they filled the bowl until the friendship salad was complete, and then staff made fruit cups for all. After the cups were finished, the students brought up their personalized pots to get a few sunflower seeds in the soil and then waters them. It was a great day to spend the afternoon. Great way to spend the afternoon, and fun and learning was had by all. And that's the end of that report. And Mr. Heavey, I don't believe is present, for the facilities and grounds update. There are 36 scheduled events for the month of April. He continues to work with Schneider Electric on resolving problems with upgrade. That's to refine the software, I believe, for the control system.
Yes.
At the high school, there are 2 scheduled events. And again, Schneider's working at both schools. He has excess surplus. He's attached a list of old books for science and math, along with various equipment that teachers don't need. And he's looking for approval to declare them as surplus so they can be removed.
I didn't see that list on there. Is it?
No, it will be next month.
Okay.
Next month.
Say. And the new school sign was upgraded. It's been installed and up and running, and people have been trained on the software to place messages on the sign. And that includes graphics.
It's full color. Looks nice at night coming down the road.
It's almost full high def.
Yeah.
Not really.
It does pop out when you drive by.
Yeah, it does. It's nice and bright. And the technology update from Zach Barrage, the technology coordinator. Q3 progress reports have been distributed. End of year state reporting has started. He's in contact with a technician at Alma, working on deploying an updated version of their app with the goal of making state reporting a more streamlined process. A new PC has been procured, capable of running Windows 11 at minimal cost. It is currently being utilized by the admin assistant in the high school office, and purchasing 8 or more reduces the price by 23%. A temporary replacement server has been installed, currently running an open source solution, and migration of the virtual machines from our current server is ongoing. It's another cost savings. By going to open source software, you don't rely on software licenses. Network attached storage solution has been completed. Central Office file share, while still in use, has been backed up to this new solution. Migration of the Active Directory server has started. The security camera server has been restored. This required outside intervention from the company that manages the server. Once that portion of the repair had been completed, further work was required on any PC that had previously connected to the server. There is one connection still remaining, which should be resolved this week. And that is the end of that report.
Can I just ask a question on reports real quick, on updates? Would it be possible to do like an athletic department update every month? I mean, I'm not saying the athletic director needs to come and talk to us, but like just current update of where everyone's at.
In his defense, Mr. Diorio does do a pretty good job of touting the achievements of our student athletes.
And that's fine too. I mean, if he wants to put it in his report, there's times where I've been interested in like, hey, is there softball game, what's coming up, I think the more we let people know about, where games are, things like that, can only mean more people go and,
Yep.
All right, that's it for administrators' reports. There's no old business. We have a policy item to vote on. The competency determination policy for 25-26 and beyond. So, McCormick, you want to?
Sure, yeah, so we discussed the policy last month. As you're probably aware, MCAS has been phased out as a graduation requirement. So what this means is that we need to come up with a system to ensure students are graduating if they are not meeting that benchmark. So this process, I will say that the governor has put together a team over the next year and a half. We'll be looking at what they deem as a statewide recommendation, but in the interim, districts are coming up with their own competency determination policies. I've talked with several colleagues, and this is kind of where we all landed. And so there was a memo attached, but the language that we talked about at last month's meeting. So for students in North Brookfield Junior Senior High School who have not yet earned a competency determination through MCAS testing, the following alternative pathway may be used to satisfy that requirement. So earning a passing grade in both grade 9 and grade 10 English course or equivalent, earning a passing grade in both Algebra 1 and Geometry courses or equivalent, and earning a passing grade in biology. So in lieu of that MCAS requirement to graduate, you need to pass all of those courses in order to graduate, on top of satisfying all your core requirements for classes over the 4 years you're here.
What's considered a passing grade?
60, just so I'm sure, 65, Mr. Diorio? 65.
So if we go back to the days before MCAS, what were the requirements in those days in Massachusetts?
Pass your classes essentially and earn enough credits to graduate. So in our graduation requirement, there's community service hours, there's elective hours, elective classes, credits that you need on top of your core classes of math, English, science, and history. So that when they phased in MCAS, that was another benchmark for students to meet to graduate.
So are we talking about essentially just going back to before MCAS as far as the graduation requirement?
I think this is really a placehold. I think this is going to change, like I said, in a couple of years. We're going to have a statewide kind of mandate where I think we all kind of agree passing is kind of a lower bar. Proficiency is kind of a lower bar. So I think we're going to see something from the state where it requires some more rigorous expectations for all kids.
And is the reason that the state didn't have anything lined up they weren't behind the ballot question, I'm guessing? You would think if you're going to end something, you'd have something lined up. So I just want to make that clear.
They didn't prepare for the.
I just want to make that clear where that's not coming from.
So MCAS didn't go away, right? As you know,
exactly.
It's still an accountability measure, but MCAS's graduate requirement went away, and I think there's two sides to that argument, and one side really put a lot of time and effort into moving away from that, and the voters supported that. And there's another side that wanted to keep it as a graduation requirement. And I think the side that wanted to keep it, to your question, didn't put as much time and effort. And they also didn't build a backup plan while this was all in discussion and became a ballot question. So they didn't do their work behind the scenes, in my opinion.
Yeah. So after all that, we should have had a motion to, because this is a voting item, motion to accept the competency determination policy for 25-26 and beyond.
I move to accept the competency determination for proposed handbook for 25-26 as written.
I'll second the motion.
Any other questions?
So just so everyone's clear, the state still supports MCAS as a testing tool. It's just no longer a requirement for graduation.
Correct.
I tell you, even though it doesn't necessarily affect graduation at this point, it still seems like just as much pressure for the kids that don't want to take those tests. You know, even though it doesn't technically count for them, that's still a lot of stress on kids. Right now is mid MCAS season, so if you see a kid in pajamas that looks really stressed out coming home from school, like, have some sympathy, give them some space.
So this is just a placeholder until the state comes up with something new.
Yeah, we'd have to revisit, but that's kind of where they're headed right now.
All right, any other comments or questions regarding this? All right, all in favor of approving the competency determination policy 25-26 and beyond? Aye. All right, moving on to new business. We have the NBTA contract status.
The contract was, as you know, was ratified by the teachers union, so we have a signed copy to move forward with for next school year, the next 3 years. So, committee signed it in executive session, and then it was ratified last Wednesday, and signed by Mr. Serret, union president, last Thursday.
Right. And the other item of new business is North Brookfield Public School tuition task force. And this is an item to vote on because we'd be creating a task force, and this is not a subcommittee. This would include members of the public if we chose to form this. And the idea is that there's a lot of unknowns regarding the discussion of tuitioning to another district. And the task of this task force would be to look at all the options there and what the impacts would be. That's the idea anyway, but task force can take a look at the considerations that all this would be, and given that there's unknowns and a lot of hearsay and commentary, but we don't have any solid numbers, that's the idea for this. And this vote is just whether or not to form the task force. So
I would like to move, just for the purposes of discussion, I'd like to make a motion that we proceed and form a task force to explore the tuitioning out option.
I'll second the motion.
All right.
So are we looking at defining how many people are in this committee, or?
Yeah, so I think we need to gather some public interest. In my opinion, this task force should be, you know, maybe a member of finance committee to shed light on numbers and town budget.
Yep.
Other members of the town who might be able to help in that aspect, but I think we also need either parents, maybe even a student or two on the task force, so that we can get, this is too big of a decision for just the 5 of us up here to make. We need to get all interested parties, because everyone's part of this town, and I think that it would benefit all of us. And also, you know, I'll look at it differently than John will, or, you know, it's we have different perspectives, and I think to get all those points of view together is important before we just go ahead and make a decision on this. And we also need to, there's so many factors at play. I think we owe it to the town to A, get the heads together to do that, B, present what we're doing and let everyone know the steps that we're taking, and maintain that communication. We can provide updates on a regular basis at the school committee meetings, what the task force is up to, and you know, where we're going with that. And I think by keeping it a task force spearheaded by 1 or 2 of us on the committee, we can keep that line of communication going and keep the updates flowing to the people in the town, as opposed to regionalization, where there were long gaps without any updates or information coming out of that group.
Yeah, I was gonna second that with well, not literally, but I was gonna echo what you just said in the terms of we kind of have more control over how quickly we have meetings, and, you know, the regionalization process, I know when I was still here, we were waiting months and months and months and months. I mean, I sent emails that didn't get responded to plenty of times. So, I mean, I think the big thing here is that we do look at everything, and I think, you know, we've been a standalone district for this long for a reason. I think people that have lived here way beyond before I lived here, before anyone lived here, wanted this to be a standalone district. So if we're going to change that, we have to gather all the information to show that it supports that decision, because for some reason, that decision has been, we've gone right along when every other school regionalized in the 80s when there was bus incentives. North Brookfield didn't for some reason. I don't know why. I was for regionalization last time. I won't hide that. But tuition out and regionalization are 2 different things, and they do need to be looked into. So that's all I wanted to say on that. Good or bad, I mean, I think we'll probably find out some good things, find out some bad things, but all that needs to be found out and presented. And I am of the opinion too that the more people on the board, the better, or on the committee, excuse me. Just so we don't run into situations where, you know, a couple people can't make it and we have to cancel meetings. And I think, and I'm of the opinion too, that we get parents from as many subset groups as we can. You know, we get a parent from a population where they've never entered North Brookfield school buildings. You know, before kindergarten, they made some decision to leave. Let's get that parent here, if they'll volunteer, obviously. You know, I'd like to see a parent who's now choicing out to another district. I'd like to see a parent who's keeps their children here, just so we have all those different voices. But I think ultimately a lot of it's gonna boil down to, or a lot of what we need to find out is the financial situation. I mean, that's a lot of it, but I think the other side is very important as well. So, and I think that's why this decision can't be made very quickly, because I mean, even if we have a district that approaches us with a contract or a proposed contract, that has to go back and forth with legal. So that is going to take a little bit of time. I mean, and I'm of the opinion also that we don't just take the first offer from the first school district, that everybody, you know, we have to look at all possibilities if we're trying to truly do what's best for the children in North Brookfield for the next 20, 30 years, so we don't keep having this conversation, you know, every year. So that's my 2 cents, and so I'll start this with, my suggestion would be 2 of us and FinCom. That's 3. I don't know if are we doing Board of Selectmen? I know they were offered for regionalization, but they didn't go on the regionalization committee. They sent their representative, so I don't know if they're interested in having somebody, if we're inviting them.
Yeah, I think we should send out Maybe, Mr. McCormick, maybe you can assist us in getting some communication out to parents and students, things like that, see who's interested.
Well,
I don't think it would be a bad idea to have just kind of an open kind of first meeting and just get general thoughts and
because
feedback.
we do have the option to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know all the, John might know better too, we can post an application too, I think.
Yep.
So we can do that and, you know, that can drum up some.
Yep.
I feel very strongly that the task force needs to have student representation on it. And possibly even current, a staff member or two.
I think that would be.
Because they, I think, are gonna have a better vision of how this would directly impact the students too. Just a different view on it than we may have.
So would, I guess, would it make sense to have FinCom and like the town account, or just one or the other? Because I don't know if FinCom,
Could just be one or the other. I think we reach out and find out. Right now, the motion is just to establish this.
Okay, I thought we had to say what we wanted.
We are voting that we are going to have a task force.
Okay, I thought while we're here, we might as well just, you know, identify at least a number that we're looking for.
Are you volunteering for the task force, Matt?
I'll definitely, I have the time and I want to do it.
All right. So part of the task force members from the school committee's first task is to start that communication, figure
Okay.
out what you want.
Yeah, I didn't know what we would do tonight versus another night, so.
I think right now, we have to just authorize two of us to head on out and take the lead on it.
Okay. Nobody wants to work with me, huh?
You'll do it?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Well, don't do it reluctantly.
No, I'll do it, I'll do it.
Jeez, I mean, this is actually really important.
I was
so.
giving somebody else a chance.
No, I know, I just want to make sure that.
Now, it is a task force, so it's acting, you're not a quorum, just the two of you on it. But if one of you can't make it, you can reach out to us and we can jump in. And so we always want two members there to document this stuff and to bring it back to the committee. And so I think there's a lot of work to be done on this. And I have some information that I can get you guys on what I've found out so far. And I would welcome feedback from you if you need us to do some more, find out, divide and conquer, whatever you need us to do. And I think having a task force of a bunch of different people will really help in that cause. And I feel as though if we find all good things or all bad things, we've failed as a task force. We have to find good things and bad things and be able to weigh them honestly with the town before we make any final decisions on that. So, sorry, that's like my second little soapbox of the night. I'll stop.
Iverson.
I don't know that I need to amend the motion that Matt and Dan will be leading this charge. I think we can just vote that we're starting it and have it on public record that they're the guys in charge.
Yeah, and what I will say too is what you said, Tim, I'm just gonna again echo what you said, and that this is not a small deal, this is a huge deal, and I think everybody is going to ultimately need to contribute or be involved at one point on the committee. I mean, I don't want anybody thinking that, hey, this is just two people working on this, because it's clearly not going to be, so.
It's too big.
As much as there is, you know, we had the regionalization committee, there were a lot of different people on that committee, and, you know, the differing perspectives and the, you know, differing backgrounds, different talents to be able to apply themselves to this. Again, it's not something to leap into, and it's not something to take lightly.
No, and it's also something we need to keep momentum going for, which the regionalization committee struggled with as far as.
Correct. Right, that's kind of what I was getting at earlier. It's
A task force reduces the need for a quorum.
Right.
You know, you can get things done with a smaller group of the task force if that's what's available.
So also to follow up on that, we don't need to, they're not public open meetings, we don't need to post a certain amount of days in advance to a meeting. Is there any regulation on notice for a meeting though, or anything? Do you know?
I'd have to check on the task force stuff.
Yeah.
I think John's looking it up.
I
right now.
personally don't know either, that's why, yeah.
But we can also utilize the school's survey techniques and stuff too. They have survey software and things like that. I think better off doing 1 or 2 questions at a time and just try to get feedback. And there's a lot of resources here that we can use to get this rolling.
Not to go backwards here, but you just mentioned surveys, so it made me, I had like this flashback to when I was up here last time. We were talking about that whole survey for choice out stuff. Did we ever, I know we had a subcommittee on it. Did anything ever come of that?
We got those last year. We had some filled out. It wasn't 100%, but we did get some feedback.
So not a lot of
Yeah,
participation?
I can look back and see if I can find
I was just curious if we had participation on it, or?
it was decent, more than 0.
Okay.
You know, not 100% participation, but. It was also a fairly long survey, especially if you're filling in the answers and stuff.
Yeah.
If we can streamline it and
I
make
agree.
it
The
easier
long
questions.
surveys, yeah, tend to be, someone opens them in their email and then looks the other way.
I'll have to dig into the particulars of the task force composition.
Okay, yeah, and the reason why I ask is I think we should get something set up sooner than later, just to garner what we're gonna do, and then establish that first, and then go from there with.
I know there's a set list, but of setting objectives and.
That's what
so
yeah,
forth.
great.
So, I can get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not saying you have to make cool T-shirts, but
I know we could.
yeah, you could.
Maybe at the end, I survived the task force.
Just thinking more like SWAT. Task force.
Yeah, I'm not sure I like the task force term, but it is what it is.
Well, it's to distinguish from official, like from a subcommittee.
Yeah, I got you.
It allows for more flexibility.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Tanya, we got a shirt for you.
All right.
All right, get you one. Be along the lines of Ghostbusters, but yes.
All right, so we have a motion to form a task force regarding tuitioning to another district, or districts, as the case may be. And that's something you guys can explore. Any other questions or comments on this? All in favor of forming a North Brookfield Public School Tuition Task Force?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. We do not have an executive session tonight.
I will move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning? Aye. Thank you, everyone.